Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy. First and foremost, Happy New Year. We are officially in 2022 and we're kicking it off strong with our Cobra Kai Season 4 spoiler discussion. We did a spoiler-free discussion on this thing and we gave you all the weekend just to get it watched, get it binged, whatever you were doing with this. I think a lot of people have tuned in for this. I've seen a lot of positive things on Season 4 already. And there were so many things that, of course, we wanted to talk about in that spoiler-free discussion, but, we couldn't. We wanted to wait, for the official release date of it. And that release date has been and gone. People have watched it. People might have even rewatched it. And we are here today to talk about everything, pretty much everything in the show, all like the major reveals, all the surprises, all of the twists and turns, and where it's going to be setting up for season 5 as well. We're going to be chatting it all, and hopefully, we get people coming in, commenting. We had a big turnout last time, so hopefully we have the same on this thing. Before we do, over to George with the socials.
Absolutely, guys. So we want you to comment your thoughts on Cobra Kai. This is the spoiler discussion, so you can get them all out of the system. Whatever you want to put, story points you enjoyed, things you disliked, major reveals, people coming back. Comment them below. We'll go through them across the episode. We've got our own plan, but we might dip into what you guys think as well. So do please comment. Do hit that subscribe button. We know that Cobra Kai is going away, but season 5 is filming as we speak. We're going to assume it'll be the end of this year, maybe, but if we're very lucky. So there is more stuff on the way. And if you're a big fan of Netflix and all that kind of stuff, we've obviously got a lot of new films and TV shows to cover for you this year. So please do hit subscribe. We're working towards some goals on the channel now for you. And if you are new, if you don't know what we do, obviously we're a film channel. We do TV, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about Cobra Kai, mainly for the bigger stuff like this. So hit us up on social media, Twitter at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. That's where you can find out what videos are coming up, when they're coming up, and all that other stuff. So do follow us on there. But as we said, today is all about Cobra Kai Season 4. And we did a spoiler-free video, which you guys may have seen. Obviously, we did it before it came out, so no one would have watched it, and we did a pretty good job on not saying anything. We had a couple of comments, people asking, but we don't want to ruin it for anybody. So thank you to everyone that checked that out. But initially, Chris, what are your without getting into what your basic thoughts on Season 4?
Basic thoughts. Well, I did actually want to give this a second view before doing this. I have rewatched the final 2 episodes. I did kind of want to go through the whole thing again, but unfortunately I haven't. And we watched this quite a bit back ago as well, so hopefully we can remember everything that happened. But initial thoughts on this season, I mentioned I'm always anxious before every single season comes out. As a TV show goes on and on and on. And even with the ending of season 3, we thought, okay, it's gearing up for the end now. It's coming to one final tournament. The stakes are high. But then they announced that, oh no, there's going to be a season 5 and possibly a season 6. When season 4 was coming out, knowing that there was going to be multiple seasons coming ahead, I was kind of worried about this and thought, are they just going to drag it out? Is it going to lose the magic? Is it going to lose the momentum of what they built up with the previous series? And from the get-go, my fears were completely allayed, and I thought it was another solid series. I don't know if it would be my favorite series out of all 4 of them. I still think season 1, maybe because it was the first one, it was special, it was rediscovering it. That'll always be my favorite, but 4 seasons in, and it's incredible, and it's absolutely testament to the showrunners who have, a clear love, a clear passion for the Karate Kid trilogy from back in the day. They can bring that sort of modern 80s aesthetic to it as well in terms of the soundtrack and everything, and its heart's in the right place. It's doing right by the fans, it's doing right by the characters, and another fantastic solid series. It advanced characters in ways that I didn't think were going to get advanced, characters that had been a bit sort of meh before this point and they hadn't really done much with them. Just across all the characters, and of course we'll go into it throughout the rest of this review as well. I think that they really did justice to a lot of the characters this season.
Yeah, and I think that's where I kind of stand up a lot of it, that it's, obviously because I felt new to it last year, I binged all 3 seasons across 2 days. It's all sort of blurred into one for me, but you bring back Terry Silver, all that kind of stuff, there's a lot that they're resting on, and as you get sort of deeper into the Karate Kid films, you kind of get not more expectation, but it's, we've done the Karate Kid 2 stuff, we've chosen all of that, and now we're going to move on to Karate Kid 3 stuff, and they're getting this balance right, and I think the show's nailed it whilst focusing on the forefront of their characters with the kids, with the adults. They're able to focus on that whilst bringing in these other people, and I think it's a very hard balance to get right. Again, a 4th season bringing in a classic villain, I guess you can now say, is very risky, and they pulled it off, and I think a really big thing for me is that it's 10 episodes again, and when you look at I went to re-binge Daredevil recently, and then I remembered that was the Netflix era where a Netflix original show
13,
had to have 13, wasn't it? Yeah, they always had to have 13. It was like the UPS. And so many Netflix shows got bogged down in, we need to plug like a 4 or 5 episode gap now to justify the 13. And so many shows lost quality off that. And where I've kind of come with Cobra Kai is that I was like, oh my God, no, it is just 10 for season 4. And I think it's a really important thing that these episodes, they're shorter, the pacing's right, and there's not too many. We're not missing 3 episodes, not 3 episodes too many. They get the story done so well across each season. And that is an absolute credit to the showrunners, the writers, and everything like that. And I just think initially season 4, I don't know if it's hard to say if it's my favorite because the whole series flows so well, and with them all being set so soon after each other, it all like blurs together for one story. But I think season 4 is probably. Oh God, I can't even say what the best season is. I think they're all probably equal. If I'm going to be blunt, I don't think I can pick one that's better or worse than any others. If that makes sense.
I think it might be more focused than season 3, maybe. I keep thinking back to season 3, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love season 3, but I didn't start loving season 3 until maybe episode 3 or episode 4, whenever they went to Japan. Then you really saw that production value on screen where they actually went there on location. It all looked wonderful, and you got like the old familiar characters coming back into it again. Whereas this one, I was kind of with it from beginning to end. There wasn't any kind of questioning, well, where's this going? Where's the direction of this going? What are we aiming towards? And I mentioned this in the spoiler free, I think, and having that tournament be sort of like the ending point of the series, and it's building there, that just kind of like helped the drive of everything else, because you knew the goal, you knew the stakes, and it was all kind of laid out from the ending of season 3. So going into this one, you felt totally at home coming into season 4, I think, maybe.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point, and it has that finality. And one thing I'll say to criticism, which isn't anything to do with the actual product, is them announcing season 5, and they're filming season 5 before 4 finishes. That I know a lot of shows do. I know a lot of showrunners come out saying, "Here's a plan for 5 or 6 seasons, whatever." I'm currently binging Succession. I've got 1 episode left, and I think their showrunners, it was season 4 was announced with season 3 just before it aired. And I think some shows really benefit from that, whereas some don't, especially with a show like this where we know it's going to end on this big cliffhanger. It's essentially good versus evil. It would be like, I don't really know there's any comparisons to films, but like how with Marvel would complain that,
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Marvel, Infinity War. Oh no, these characters died. Yeah, but he's on like a 7-picture contract, so he's obviously not dead, is he? And it's things like that it can take out the drama, but what the show has, which is a credit to it, is that the product itself, the actual drama, what we're seeing on screen, it isn't. You can lose the momentum of the behind the scenes stuff. That I know that season 5 is going to happen, but watching this show, I don't think about the future. Whereas, like those Marvel films, when something major happened, you would think that character is safe. Whereas if this series, maybe because it's a series, it's not as big or whatever, but you would have that watching it. That I didn't think for one moment. Well, no one's going to die. Let's be honest. If they do, then this show's really going off the rails in terms of how karate dangerously it's getting. But I've never had that sort of vibe that, they turned out tomorrow, it's like, we're filming season 5 and we're going to Japan. You'd be like, okay, so someone's going to end up in Japan at the end of season 4. I've never had that with Cobra Kai. And I think that's a credit to its writers that when they're making these announcements, it seems to be in benefit to the production. I don't know if that sounds a bit extreme.
Had they already announced? I was trying to think back to season 3. Had they already announced that season 4 was happening when 3 hit, or was that towards as soon as it had aired and it was out? There was like, oh yeah, by the way, 4's happening.
I think it may have already been, and I think it may have already been filming potentially.
Okay.
I think it was filming because I think that was when I was new to it. They were filming season 4 because obviously COVID had delayed a lot of it, hadn't it? And I think they delayed. I mean, was there a massive gap between the release date of season 2 and season 3? I think COVID has something to do with it. I think it was, yeah. And then the rights were moving across to Netflix and all that stuff. So I don't think it damages this, but I think some shows can really miss. Again, I don't want to keep bringing them over, but something that can backfire for a lot of shows, whereas it doesn't for Cobra Kai, which is again a credit to the showrunners. But with this being a spoiler special, we're gonna obviously go into things. We have a plan, and we're gonna attempt it in order. So I guess we can say some of this stuff we spoke about spoiler free, but we can actually give details and context now. But the main one is how season 3 ended. We know that LaRusso and Johnny have to team up together. They're going to form this ultimate karate dojo to take down Cobra Kai. And I know that we both spoke saying that was one of the bigger issues of season 4 at first, and that they didn't actually really form a team until When do they stop? In the episode 1 or 2, and then
It's the last episode. Well, when they stop forming a team, it's pretty much in episode 1 or possibly episode 2, but they don't get back together again. It's almost like a repeat, episode 10, season 4. It's like, oh no, we're joined back together again. That was probably my biggest negative. And honestly, a lot of TV shows do this, so I don't think this is exclusive to Cobra Kai, but it did let me down how a series will end on a massive cliffhanger and you're expecting like a huge payoff, a huge shake up to the equilibrium and everything to the status quo going into next season. And then there'll be something that kickstarts the next episode of the first episode of the next season. And it will be just dismissed in like a really anticlimactic kind of way. A lot of TV shows do it. I remember Lost used to do it as well. You used to be kept on tenterhooks for a year, waiting with bated breath for that next episode as to what was going to happen, and then it would just be kind of brushed off or something like that. So the LaRusso and Johnny stuff really did kind of bother me this series. It just felt like a bit of a retread. So many of the other characters, the introduction of Terry Silver was something new, seeing that dynamic with Kreese and how that's advanced. A lot of the kids' relationships between them and sort of like the gray areas between, what was a black and white thing, Cobra Kai versus Miyagi-Do. Now you've got some characters that are kind of being more sympathetic of people in the other side and a bit more of a crossover. So there's more of an advancement there with those characters. With Johnny and Daniel, it was like, okay, you left them in a great place in episode 3 where they're finally together. We've had, 2 and a bit seasons of them, constantly at war with each other. Now they're finally going to form together. And then the beginning of season 4, you kind of hit the reset button and it's that back and forth. It's that banter. And don't get me wrong, the banter is fun, but I felt like we'd been there, done that very much with it this season. So it felt a little bit tired. But then on the flip side, if you look at it as a character arc overall, them being, warring against each other does bleed so much into their students and the kids. So, there's a whole thing with Miguel. We'll talk about that more in depth in a second. This fatherly dynamic, and Johnny's envious of Daniel for spending so much time with Miguel. And now that he's with Carmen, he feels like he needs to step up as that father figure because Johnny never had one in his life. So that's a great theme right there, which is aided by them being at war with each other. And then, of course, you've got Sam as well. And I think the theme of this series, more than anything, is sort of breaking that repetitious circle, sort of like hate bleeds hate kind of thing. And if they keep going about things in the same black and white way, then there's always going to be this tension between Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai and Johnny and Daniel. So you've either got to take elements of both of them and be your own person and use bits from all the different teachers. And that's where the theme really kicks in, especially with Sam at the end, where all she really wants is to be her own person, which again is aided by that tension between Johnny and Daniel. So I get the point of it. I know why it's there. And I do think it really greatly, accentuates the character arcs of a lot of the kids. But it is kind of frustrating to watch as a viewer, because I felt going, at the end of season 3, I was like, oh, the game's changed now. We're finally going to see these two characters working together. And you don't really get that again. It is very much separate entities of Miyagi-Do versus Eagle Fang versus Cobra Kai. So it's a double-edged sword. I can understand where it led to, and I like where it led to, but it was certainly at the beginning, it was a bit of a frustrating watch for me, seeing that reset.
Yeah, and I think because it's the way season 3 ended, it's the team up now, and the whole stakes were your dojo versus our dojo, and the winner is going to take it all. And I don't want to say it feels like a con. I wonder if that was something they knew by the time season 3 ended, that they were going to have this arc of them falling out and then teaming back. Not even teaming back up, but it feels weird that it cliffhanged it for it to be so minor this season. And I think that's where I stand with it, that if they hadn't had a cliffhanger last season, if you'd have had the whole shop fight and then them just say, if you can beat us next year, that would have made no difference. But the fact they team up, I think the benefit of it is that it's really good, I think, for the kids' journeys, that it's all about them. Let's be honest, they're taking the attack of Cobra Kai, then using the defense of Miyagi-Do. It's as simple as that, blue versus red, all that kind of stuff. And that's where that arc only benefits the kids, and within that you actually lose a lot of quality, I think, of Daniel and Johnny, because they have been at the forefront for so long. Another petty rivalry between them. You're going to get petty moments, which is fine, and you're going to get these moments of mutual respect, but it feels like a retread back to the early seasons, and I don't think it works that well. And I think one of the other things I have is that, how not that showing this needs to be taken seriously, when like there's like a joke. He's like, oh look, another karate master villain from like 30 years ago has cropped up in current day, and they kind of laugh it off like it's funny, but it shows like how ridiculous and over the top it is. And you just think, if you can truck in something like that, which is fine, can you not try and do something different with your two characters? It feels like a Saturday morning cartoon, doesn't it? And it works great in that sense.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh look, they've fallen out. They're going to have to team up again in the end. They'll probably fall out again. Oh look, they're going to have to team up and get on with each other again. So I think you do lose moments of drama by them doing that. And also, I'm not going to lie, I just hate the name Eagle Fang Karate. And I know it's meant to be a joke, the whole shit name and all that kind of stuff, but it's just it's not even the fact it's not cool. People really hype it. I'm like, it's been around for like 3 episodes. Like it's not.
It's like the Americana machismo thing that is like Johnny Lawrence's character. I do think they have really doubled down with that, you know, like him being sort of like a technophobe, not knowing what an Uber is, not knowing what Twitter is. And like, I get it. I mean, you know, sort of jumping ahead to the music where they're like Connie Underwood, and there's me who feels like a real life old timer like Johnny Lawrence, like, who's Connie Underwood? You know, I've been out of the game. Like, who is that? Who is this modern pop icon that I've never heard of? So, but I do think they take it too far. Like when they drop in like the hash brown and everything, I'm like, that was funny for one time, but it's, I don't know. It feels like they've kind of hit a caricature a little bit with Johnny in some respects. What I did want to ask you was, I know when season 1 started, you know, the whole crux of the show, the whole sort of conceit of the show was that it was going to be a series from Johnny's perspective and he was going to be the focus. Do you still think come season 4 the focus is on Johnny's character and his relationships, or do you think it's more of an ensemble piece now between everyone?
I think that's a good question, actually. I don't feel he's at the core like he was. In theory, if you go back to season 1, he was the protagonist, kind of, against the antagonist in LaRusso, which was a great switch. And I think here we are now in season 4. By bringing in, I think Johnny's been able to get his character developed. I think, obviously, without getting season 5, we know he's going on a journey, which might be great for him. And in the same way, in season 4, season 3, LaRusso went to Japan, and although it detracted from the main story, it really helped his character. I think we might get that next with Johnny in the next season, but I think we get stuff, his relationship with his son, his relationship with Miguel. He feels like he's at the forefront, but it is, how would I describe it? He's like the leader of an ensemble cast. It's quite, I don't really know what compares to it. He's still the main. Would you say like Frodo? Not a fair comparison, but he's the leader of the Fellowship, but he's a part of the Fellowship. But he's still in theory.
You focus more like Aragorn and, you know, some of the more exciting stuff maybe than him. Yeah,
it's kind of that sense that maybe that's just a bog standard like ensemble cast type thing, but I still think he's the forefront, just not what he was compared to season 1. And I think the show's expanded to the point where you can get away with that. That we're getting new characters in this series who aren't related. Well, technically related to someone, but aren't related. You know, it's not his 1980s character and he had a kid. It's like here's a brand new character, and they get character development, and it's juggling all these things, and I think they absolutely nail it. And that's the thing. The team ups of LaRusso, you waste a lot of time by having them team up and fall out, blah blah blah. And as you said, the jokes do start to fall flat. But the show maintains its consistency. There are just moments within it where it just could have saved a bit of time and writing elsewhere to have skipped a lot of that.
I do like some of the moments with Johnny in it, though. Actually, probably some of the more emotional scenes in it for sure. I think like one of the big aspects, and I think the theme of season 5 is going to be fatherhood. I think that is going to be sort of like the main one going into season 5. We'll talk about that at the end, though. But there's a scene in this, probably one of my favorites. I know I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but where Johnny's drunk again, surprise, surprise, and Miguel's kind of looking after him, putting him to bed. And in this drunken kind of emotional state, Johnny kind of says like, "Oh, I want to be a father to you," and everything like that. And he, you know, all of this stuff comes up, and Miguel's crying. He's getting very weepy, and then Johnny accidentally throws the name in there, Robbie, and then I think that is the moment that really affects Miguel, because Miguel's looking for a father figure. Johnny wants to be a father figure to him, but he hasn't had that experience in his life, and he's kind of worried and shied away from it. So there is some really great stuff in there with Johnny, and I love that kind of aspect. I like the stuff with Carmen as well. And there was a bit where I was worried at the beginning, where I think pretty much either from episode 1 or maybe 2, I think it was episode 1 though, they're all around the table, and then Miguel comes out with that he went on a date with Ali back in season 3, and Carmen gets really like riled up about this, and I thought, oh, we're not going to do this whole, again, we always keep saying CW, where they're breaking apart, there's a misunderstanding. They very quickly just nip that in the bud, and I think it's pretty much done within 1 to 2 episodes. It doesn't outstay its welcome, and then they're back together, and the misunderstanding's completely alleviated. So when that did start, I thought, oh, we're going to have this whole like relationship problems now as well, and she's jealous and all that, but they never go into that. So I appreciate the showrunners and the writers for not dwelling on that. But that family dynamic of Johnny kind of being accepted and wanting to make a go of something with Carmen, and then also like wanting to be a father to Miguel, that was probably some of the strongest emotional stuff in this season, I would say, overall.
Yeah, and I think, I know that season 3 had the whole, obviously, Miguel paralyzed and all that kind of stuff. That was great for their relationship, but you never felt like it developed his character, like he was mentoring him. Whereas this one, it feels like there is an actual, he wants to make it up with his son. He wants to kind of take on the steps, and I guess you can say there's a relationship story in there. You've got the father stuff they're setting up, and I think it delves in the drama side of his stuff better. And when you really get to the I'm not saying karate takes a sideline, but because we know the finale is going to be the tournament, you can get away with the karate not being at the forefront of the first half of the series, because we know there's a tournament at the end. Whereas in the last 2 seasons, because there's not been a tournament, it's kind of been like, okay, what's the end game going to be? Season 2 was obviously the school attack. Season 3, you had the fights everywhere. And I think this one, it just flowed better. And I think because they knew where they were going, they were able to write the characters better. They were able to pinpoint character development moments. Even, we'll speak about Hawk later, but every character like Hawk, there's never as much to do this season, have one of the most important characters of the season, because they're able to balance things better. And it does make me think of this being the first Netflix. I think season 3 was shot before Netflix had the rights. This is the first full Netflix season of them funding it and all that. I think you can not just see that budget on screen, but you can see that Netflix has that, like, as bad as Netflix can be with a lot of their stuff, you can see that, okay, they've not just greenlit 1 season, but probably 2 more. Mm-hmm. And you can see that they're benefiting from that announcement locked in for the future. Whereas before, I guess it was as every season goes by, are we going to get a renewal? Are we going to get another season? We don't know. And I think that's just helped the showrunners with it, that it seemed to have come together. And as I said, by that working, you can then develop these character set pieces. And I think it really does make a difference, especially when you're 4 seasons into a show. How many shows start off great and drop off? There's endless amounts that do. Mm-hmm. When you're 4 seasons in and you're getting the sheer consistency you've had before, I think it makes a massive difference. And I think it's a big benefit from it is that obviously Johnny gets that relationship. And exactly what you said, you thought we're going to get a retread, he's going to split up, he'll spend 6 episodes trying to get back to her. No, he didn't. It was a quickly done and dusted. The character should know who went on a date. They explained it, and actually it builds up to Miguel being sort of so naive later on in the series when he learns that obviously Johnny's also dating his mum, which is one of the better handled things. And obviously that also helps to, as you said, it all leads up to the scene when Johnny's drunk in the bed, which is one of the most powerful scenes of the whole series, if I'm being blunt as well.
And there's some bits that, they might take it a bit far. I can understand why they do it, but where Miguel's like, just because you're dating my mom, I don't want anything to change, And then even in the sparring sessions, Johnny's going quite easy on him, and it's kind of making Miguel very uncomfortable because he is being too fatherly with him and too protective and everything like that. And some of that stuff's a little bit more on the nose and played more for laughs and everything like that. But it's all done to aid that moment where Miguel does take off at the end, because he's got to kind of chart his own path kind of thing. He's looking for answers. He's on like a quest for answers by the end of it. But we'll probably come back to like Johnny and Daniel later on, but shall we talk about our villains of this piece? I know we wanted to talk about these two so much more when we did our spoiler-free discussion, but now we finally get to talk about them. So obviously the biggest draw for me going into season 4 was seeing you know, Terry Silver back again after so many years. You know, easily my favorite character from Karate Kid Part 3. You know, easily a fan favorite, and the fact that they got him back, they alluded to him at, you know, in the end of season 3. The fact that they got the original actor back and everything there, and we talked about last time as well how I don't know if he has been out of the acting game for a long time, but even just coming back to this character and how it plays with your expectations. Because I'm not going to lie, going into episode 1, I was expecting the same crazy coked out, you know, grinning character again from episode 1, because that's the familiar, that's the known, that's what we want. But
yeah,
the Terry Silver we get from like the first few episodes isn't that Terry Silver. And I'm not going to lie, I was like, okay, this is a change. It's great to see him back, but I was like, he hasn't got that, you know, that je ne sais quoi kind of thing that I love about Terry Silver. He's not doing the Terry Silverisms, but as you watch it, as you look at it from like a 10 episode arc, it is a phenomenal arc. And I like how he does have one. You know, we see him, he's living this, you know, in the lap of luxury. Again, it's kind of played for laughs. It's very much like a satire on that kind of lifestyle, I guess. But we know that he was like a billionaire. He had, you know, money everywhere in Karate Kid 3. So the fact that he's got like this beautiful villa, I don't know where it says that he is, but, you know, this abroad villa on the waterfront. He's got, you know, waiters and posh dining and everything like that. He's just kind of been sitting there on his laurels. But you know that the real Terry Silver is inside, and Kreese helps bring that out, obviously to Kreese's detriment by the end of season 4. But I like that we see that. It plays with your expectations. I didn't expect to see a Terry Silver like that, and it just makes him feel more of a character. Don't get me wrong, you get all of those Terry Silverisms towards the end of the season, and especially by the end of it, going into season 5. I think we're going to get a lot more come season 5, but he's so intense this series, isn't he? Some of the stuff that happens, and, you know, they delve into his psyche some more and play upon that guilt and that relationship with Kreese. It's some fantastic stuff, probably the best stuff in the series, I would say, between these two.
And I think that's what you mentioned as a character arc. You know, yes, he could have come back and been, you know, the insane cokehead pantomime villain from episode 1.
I like
that
they mentioned about piano. That as well. Like, he says the reason he was nuts was that he was just high on cocaine the whole time. Yeah, I was like, that checks out. Yeah,
it's so well done. You know, when you see him, he's on the piano and you think he's still a nutcase, but when he sort of rejects the phone call, I'm like, okay, we're going to get something here. It's the build up of even getting to the dojo. Is it Terrence, what they all call him, and he's now this like sophisticated person? And does he like? I don't think he backchats his partner, but they like mock karate, don't they? And then he's like, obviously, it's funny though because of how important karate is to them. But it's the way that Kreese is there. Like, you would let him say this about karate and all that kind of stuff, and he is gearing up still to be this insane villain, and he is, and he lives up to it. But what they're able to develop into that. Here's this insane villain. Let's not give it a backstory, but let's have. Why is he the way he is? What's led him to being like this? And how do we develop their relationship as friends, partners, and ultimately rivals at the exact same time? And I think it's probably the strongest. I mean, aside from Johnny, it's probably the strongest character arc of the entire season. Leading up to the episode where I think he absolutely roundhouses that bottle of wine across the room.
Yeah, that
was it. You know, he can still kick. He's still got the legs, not as high as they were in Karate Kid 3, but you know, you just didn't think they'd develop it. And I guess you could say the same about when Kreese came back, you knew straight away he's going to be the villain still. He's still going to be Kreese. But by switching up for Terry Silver, it just made him so much better. And they even like make reference to his, is it Dynatox, his waste company? Like,
they do. Yeah.
They reference that again. And I think what I love about Cobra Kai is when it does the montages of the clips from the original films, and they've got the bubble bath. They've got all that kind of stuff. And you know, I'd be very curious to get the thoughts of someone that's never seen Karate Kid 3 that would have watched this. Probably not many, to be fair. I'm going to be blunt. But it's just amazing getting it back, and without jumping too far to where the end game is. Across the series, you know, we get to, you know, Thomas Ian Griffith, we spoke on the Spoiler Free. He hasn't acted in anything in, was it about 15, 16 years or something like that?
That's crazy, yeah.
You know, and I think that was our question mark over him coming back. It was never, is he going to come back because it's Karate Kid? Is he going to come back because he's in theory retired from acting? And they got him back. They didn't recast him. You know, the fact we get the whole ponytail becomes its own episode ending as well, which is amazing. And I think it's
It's
where the
giving the fans
series,
what they want, though. You know, as a fan, you want to
yeah,
see the ponytail, you want to see that stuff, and you might not get it straight away, but they build up to it. But they put it in there because they know how important it is. There's a close up in slow motion of him like tying his ponytails.
yeah.
It's making ponytails cool again, so there's still hope for me. But it's the stuff that you want, and you get it, and when it delivers on it, it just makes it all the worthwhile, doesn't it? Watching Cobra Kai.
Yeah, and I just think it's the smartest way of doing something like that it could easily backfire. You bring back this character that I'm not saying he had a bad rep at the time, but Karate 3 doesn't have Karate Kid is the franchise where there's one good film and the rest are crap. That's the general consensus amongst the public.
Yeah.
But the fact they're still devoting time to these other characters, which might improve how people view the originals, who knows? But I just sit there watching him on screen and knowing that it's just great to get him in. And we'll speak about some favorite scenes later on, but when you get the Pete, there's a hintling of a rivalry with Kreese, isn't there? That he makes that one offhand comment about everyone has a weakness, even Kreese. I think everyone, the way I
Kreese
think
gives
even
him the side-eyed, like,
the camera cuts,
so
doesn't
good.
it, to it just to get Kreese's reaction. And from that moment, okay, these two are now going to have their rivalry, and you get the whole they each pick their Cobra Kai team for them, and it's like we haven't just made him a villain of the other karates, we've made him a villain of Cobra Kai, which is an even greater way, because the problem is when you have him and Kreese together, if they were just both evil, I don't think there'd be any tension. In the same way that Karate Kid 3, when he gets the final fight with Mr. Miyagi and Terry Silver, Kreese is that meme, isn't he? Like, he just jumps in and screams. And by having him get his own arc with him in this, when he gets that final level, it does me think, okay, season 5 is going to happen. He's got his own internal story with Kreese, let alone with the other karate things. And I just thought it was a really smart way for them to bring him back. And I think, again, because he hadn't been in anything for so long, I didn't think he'd actually be a long-term Cobra Kai cast member. That sounds silly, but you might have thought a couple of episodes here or there, or he'll go away, or that'll be it for one season. But he feels like a long-term endgame villain for where this series might head towards. And I think it was the right moment to bring him in. I think, again, you had Kreese for being a villain for sort of 2 years. You need to now put Kreese in a bit of a rough spot, and this is the guy to do it. And when you get to that ending, you mentioned the music earlier, but it's just like a poetic scene. And again, that PTSD scene with him is phenomenal. And I didn't think you'd get a scene like that in this show. It is so not off the radar, but it gets a bit not even deep. It's like the sort of real life. Like, this is like a normal drama that someone would like torture someone through their PTSD. I'm not just saying because I watched it all recently, but like with a show like Succession, you get characters that they like to manipulate and torture others mentally. But to get it in a show about karate, it's just absolutely insane that all this happens in a show about karate.
And it never goes like so deep into it that it loses the heart of Cobra Kai. It is a very light series, which, Karate Kid or Cobra Kai absolutely has to be. But there are some themes in there, like that PTSD thing, that is so deep and like so out of left field when it comes to, Kreese and especially Terry Silver's character. Like, they mention they've been in Vietnam together, but the whole PTSD thing you wouldn't even dreamt of going into that in the original Cobra Kai films. You maybe get like a little bit of it with Mr. Miyagi in the first one, where he gets drunk and he kind of has that breakdown, but that's more so with his wife and everything. But the actual ramifications of what they went through. And I do like that they brought in those flashbacks again from season 3, because I thought that was all we were going to get for season 3. Kreese's origin story, essentially, which I thought was fantastically handled. That was easily one of my favorite things from that previous series. And I thought that kind of set us up, and is right, we've got the origin story. We know that he, helped out Terry Silver. They kind of mentioned that in Karate Kid Part 3 as well. It's done. I never expected that we'd go back to those actors again, those flashbacks, and seeing them, create Cobra Kai, get it up and running when it's still like a very fledgling company, a fledgling dojo. And yeah, Kreese using that guilt card on him constantly. It is a war for dominance very much. I think you nailed it last time where you said that someone asked how we describe the relationship between Terry Silver and Kreese this series, and I think you said sort of like Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader kind of dynamic. And it absolutely is. It's this sort of like tug of war between who gets to manage and who gets to lead Cobra Kai. And there are sort of like pendulum swings on both sides. There's a great scene where Kreese confronts, is it where he buys him like a pack of beer or something? I remember in one episode he goes to congratulate him. And that's where the episode ends, and he breaks him down. He says everyone's got a weakness, and he goes into that PTSD stuff. He keeps bringing up Vietnam, which clearly has a psychological effect on Terry Silver. And then by the end, Terry Silver's overcome that. He's seen that weakness that he has in himself and how to overcome that. And then boom, it's like thrown right back at Kreese, where he gets arrested at the end. And I think bringing Terry Silver into it, as you mentioned, now he's going to be what we hope is going to be that, this really recurring villain over seasons and seasons. It adds a new dynamic to it, because Kreese is great, don't get me wrong, but we have had Kreese for a number of series now be that main antagonist. So having this be like almost the transitionary series where, you're introducing a new character. Kreese is still prominent, but now Kreese is kind of out of the picture by the end of season 4, and we're going to get Terry Silver as that main villain for going into season 5. It just completely, it keeps it fresh. We love Kreese, we love to hate Kreese, but I think, another season 5 where Kreese is the bad guy, maybe season 6 where Kreese is the bad guy, that would be where it starts to feel like it's dragging and getting a little bit tired, and that same dynamic. So I think bringing him really keeps that fresh. And absolutely, that final scene of Terry Silver where he plays like 4D chess, doesn't he, with Kreese? Yeah. He plays Game of Thrones and gets him arrested, and then it's that theme kicks in, and he's got his Bollinger champagne and he's like dancing. He's almost like the Joker. I would say Terry Silver is like the Joker's equivalent to Karate Kid. Yeah. And yeah, it's just fantastic. And we'll talk about some potential characters from Cobra Kai that could come back in season 5 towards the end as well. But there's a few little clues there in one of Terry Silver's last line in this series, certainly. But he's just wonderful, right at home, just right back into that character. But there's enough fresh stuff and enough new material and dramatic stuff, I think, for Thomas Ian Griffith to sink his teeth into. But it doesn't betray what we know of Terry Silver. He is very much that character. So yeah, easily one of the highlights of this series, I would say, is the handling of the villains.
Definitely. Just a quick comment I want to bring up. I laugh when Terry Silver says on cocaine for all of Karate Kid 3. It makes sense. Yeah, he's so over the top in that film. It just works wonders. And also like everyone at home that's watching this, the group of them. I don't think this is a kids show, although this is about teens. A lot of younger people do watch it. I think this isn't a show that's designed for 8-year-olds. Like maybe you could say Karate Kid 1, not necessarily a kids film, but I don't think you'd show really young kids watching this and they wouldn't get it. It's such a minute reference, but it's so funny because it's just stating the obvious. And one day they'll grow up and realize what he said, and they'll realize that he too was correct.
It's just the perfect blend, isn't it? Like it's made for the fans easily. There's so many Easter eggs and nods to the old stuff with the original cast and continuing them. But maybe some new fans as well will gravitate towards some of the new characters and more of like the relationship and kid dynamic. So it's the perfect blend. I wouldn't say that any of the kids are necessarily drastically annoying this series. We'll talk about Sam in a bit, but there have been elements with her characters where I'm like kind of roll my eyes. Oh, it's a Sam scene now. We've got to spend some time with her, but everything's just where it needs to be. The new characters are given enough, I would say, for new fans to come into it, and there's enough there for the old fans to come back. It's just the perfect blend. It's a fantastic continuation, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And we've mentioned some new characters. Let's talk maybe the most surprising addition to the show. Now, I think it's worth me mentioning at this point in time. I think you're the same. With both seeing the entire season before the trailer was released, like at the start of December. I want to say there'd been a teaser earlier in the year, but the full trailer. So when we were introduced to a kid, I would just say doing the Fortnite dances. That's how I am these days. At a bus stop, completely new character. Didn't even know he was called Kenny until many episodes in. We thought, how's this new kid going to fit in? And then we get given one of my favorite stories the entire season, which is obviously the rivalry of Anthony DeRusso, that a character that's been mocked cruciously online because did he have like one line in season 3 or something like that? Mm-hmm. Like he'd lost all this weight, obviously, they all hit puberty and stuff, but in series it was like meant to be set straight after, and he just like shipped all this weight, says one line, that's him done for the series. A real smart way to bring him into it by introducing a new kid, and I'm just going to genuinely character out here. It was basically Karate Kid 1, but this kid ends up being a villain, not a good guy. Yeah. And this is where I was completely sold on this. My favorite, aside from the villains, he's a villain, I guess you could say, but one of the best characters of the season is Kenny going from, kid that dresses up as, it's like, I'm guessing it's a fictional game.
Yeah, I think it is. It's like a fantasy RPG, online RPG game, isn't it, that he plays? Yeah. We all
Yeah,
know
and
people like
that.
that.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that this show went into all that. You set him up, not to dislike him, but to know this kid isn't Cobra Kai material. We see him getting battered and scared at the start, and by the time he gets to the final episode, when he's like screeching on the floor at people to get up and to fight and kill, is an absolute incredible arc. And I think Kenny steals the series to me. There's so much going on, and the fact that even it's kind of pointless that he's related to that kid from who's in prison from season 3. He looks about 30
Yeah, it's
years
the younger
older than
brother,
him.
isn't he? Yeah.
And I get why they did it to obviously set up a relationship. And even with Kenny's arc really benefits Robbie, because we'll speak about Robbie later, but he's a character I think got sidelined in season 3 quite a bit. I don't think he's ever been an interesting character, and this series he really gets into it. And I think a lot of it comes down to Kenny and again Anthony LaRusso getting the whole villain storyline. I was wondering, is he gonna turn into is he gonna end up being bullied, or his friend's gonna work out he's into the nerdy stuff? And there were so many things going on. I just loved what they did with their story arc. It's a very small arc in comparison, but again, the fact you go on a season 4, they're bringing in new characters and they're getting full arcs in a debut season is very, very good.
Mm-hmm. I just want to bring up a comment here, and no joke, I did think this when I watched the series.
I thought this as well, yeah.
So Dallas Dupree Young is the name of the actor. Kenny's actor should play Miles Morales. I was getting huge Miles Morales vibes, especially, that coming to a new school, trying to make friends, not fitting in, feeling awkward and everything like that. And he's fantastic as well. When it started off, I did think, we're 4 seasons in now, should we really be introducing new characters, like a fresh origin story and everything like that? And I thought, are we just doing it because it is a new series? And as new series go by, it is kind of the thing with sequels, you introduce new characters, you kind of bolster the numbers a little bit more. So I was immediately kind of hesitant when it started off, but they go into the whole thing, which is a very real thing, cyberbullying and bullying at school and everything like that. And you summed it up perfectly where you said it's like the Bizarro, it's like the reverse Karate Kid. Like, it's the exact same arc that Daniel goes through pretty much in that first film, but on the reverse. I thought it was absolutely wonderfully handled, brilliantly played as well. And you really feel bad for him. That's the key thing. Like, you really do sympathize with him. And this is where, with this series, we're seeing characters straddle the line between that kind of gray area in the middle where you can absolutely see both sides to it. There are moments where, Kenny's character is being absolutely vile and beating up and, causing havoc for Anthony's character. But we fucking hate Anthony's character. So it's like, yeah, he absolutely deserves it. But then there is a moment as the series goes on where, as you're watching it, you think, okay, he's taken it a step too far now. Like, you've proven your point, move on from it. And then he does become the bully, essentially, and the roles are reversed. It's such a great dynamic. And I think for the writers to achieve that, where you can see good and bad on both sides, that's a very difficult thing to do. And, a lot of Karate Kid stuff before this point has been very black and white. So I like that they are starting to bring that sort of like gray area into it as well. And obviously throwing into the mix as well, Robbie's character as well. We'll talk about like the whole supporting cast together, but having Robbie be able to sort of step up as a mentor figure, as a teacher, and sort of show that compassion and sort of seeing through Kenny's eyes the problems that he's going through and how violent Cobra Kai can be, seeing that happen firsthand through Kenny's character, I thought that was a wonderful dynamic as well with it. And Anthony, yeah, like, it's taken them 4 series, but he actually has something to do. He actually has lines, he actually has dialogue, he actually has somewhat of a personality and a character. Anthony was always a character that in Cobra Kai, I always thought, what was the point in giving Daniel LaRusso another child? Sam gets so much of the focus. Why not just give him one daughter? Why did he need a son? He was always the character that was in the background or wasn't in it entirely. And I love that he's finally has something to do. That they do address the, going from this, overweight kid to suddenly he's like 6 feet tall and really thin. They mentioned it was a growth spurt. It must have been an overnight growth spurt, though. I will say that, but at least they mention it. And I like the way that the actor plays it as well, because he does have that kind of bravado, that swagger that Daniel LaRusso had when he was a kid in that first Karate Kid film. And, it's taken to the extreme. He's lazy. He is a bully. He is an absolute son of a bitch when it comes to, his character. And there are moments of redemption, where he says, like, I want to step up. I want to start learning Mr. Miyagi's karate. And his father tells him to do the wax off, wax on thing. And of course, he just pays for someone to do it, and he just sits inside and plays video games. So there are those moments where it does kind of it teases you with some kind of redemption for Anthony, but we haven't really got that yet, I don't think. But nonetheless, he's a character that you really dislike, but I like that they actually gave the character something to do, and it is something fresh, and it is this interesting dynamic, and merging that with Kenny's character, I think it taught me completely by surprise. That was probably one of my biggest surprises, actually, of the whole series was, okay, there's this new character. What are we doing here? Why are we spending time with this character? But when you see how it all plays out, and even at the very end as well, when Robbie gets exceptionally violent with Kenny, and I think that's going to be a key moment as well. I want to know what that's going to do for Kenny's character going into season 5. Is that going to make him more timid, or is that going to make him want to step up and get even more violent? It doesn't. I'm trying to think of like the finishing move in the tournament. Does he like kick him in the face or something? And it's this really brutal thing, and everyone in the audience gasps, and the music cuts out, and it really dwells on that. And that's like the tipping point for Robbie. I think it's sort of like seeing how powerful, how violent he's become, and how far gone he is from the person he wants to be.
To get all that in one season, like season 1 could have been the whole, he starts off as the weakling, he's scared about fighting. You could have ended season 1 like, yay, he won it really clean. And then the next series is his downfall. But you get all of it straight up there's no clean redemption. It's him straight up going, I'm going from scared kid to like Cobra Kai mercenary. And it works to his credit that he fits in so well because of that. That he is the whole no mercy vibe, that he doesn't want to take mercy. You get that great slow-mo shot of him like screaming at them on the floor as well. He's been built up perfectly as the villain. And as you mentioned as well with Anthony, he's very frustrating for me because he's such a snide little kid. When it looks like he's trying to do good, you just don't trust him.
Mm-hmm.
When he picks up the papers from Miyagi-Do in Japan, I was like, this little shit's going to rip them up or do something to them.
I thought he was going to do that, yeah.
And he didn't. And I hope he doesn't learn karate in a really polite way. Nothing is actual with the character. And maybe I'll get my words eaten up in a year or something, but I don't think there's enough screen time to develop another LaRusso as a karate champion. They're going to do something with him because, again, he had an arc in this. But when you get to that whole build-up that he got caught out of the bully, the parents had to go to the school, and, as much as people like Daniel LaRusso, there was nothing better than the sort of egg on his face type thing when he realized it's his son that's done the bullying. And it's such a great moment, his, the be-all and end-all of the parenting of karate stuff, and his own son ended up being the bully. I love that dynamic they went with, and I think where it finishes is a 180 between both. And Kenny hasn't nabbed his friends yet, but that was what I expected, that Kenny would fully replace Anthony in the social status at the school as well. But I still love the fact that at the school story we haven't brought up yet, everyone just knows about these crazy karate shit that went on all years ago, like Cobra Kai tops are banned from being worn at school, and all this ridiculous stuff. It's so funny and petty, but it needs to happen. And what will be weird for us over here in the UK is still seeing metal detectors at schools to stop school shooters, because it's so fucked up. And it doesn't matter what show I'm watching, it's always weird to watch any American show at a school when they're going through metal detectors like it's normal. It's incomprehensible. And that's nothing to do with Cobra Kai. But that's weirder to me than the karate being a thing at schools. Like, I just wanted to bring that up. But
no, it was weird to me as well. Like, it did kind of make me go, hang on, why are they going through? Oh, yeah. It does kind of hit home, doesn't it? Especially feel very alien to it, certainly as a UK viewer, for sure.
No, definitely.
So we've talked about, I think that's probably covers like Kenny and Anthony. We've talked a little bit about Robbie there as well. I guess if we sort of like go into sort of like the final scene with Robbie, because we've talked about most of it, that bit where he does get super violent and he snaps out of it. And even Kreese in that moment kind of has a 180 a little bit. When Robbie goes to him, he says, like, are you treating him as your friend or are you treating him as your opponent? Like, go out there and kick the little shit's ass. And he does exactly that. Like, he just lays him out on that mat. But then right after that, where you have Tori, he shows a little bit more sympathy to her, and I don't know if he does that more for himself, because it does that flashback of where he remembers how he treated Johnny at the opening scene of Karate Kid 2, where he's like got him in a chokehold and he says, you're weak and everything, you're worthless. So I get the impression that he's doing that for his own. He kind of has a bit of a character arc there and sees what's right and what she needs to do. Or I don't know if he was doing that more for Terry Silver's thing as a kind of, thing to get back at Terry. Terry's telling you to do this one thing. I'm going to assert my dominance. No, don't do what he says. Do what I tell you to do. So I think there's definitely a lot of things in it. But Robbie's final scene where he goes back to his dad in the Cobra Kai gym, and he just kind of breaks down in tears, and he says, like, I think Johnny says, well, it's not your fault, don't blame yourself, blame me. And he says, like, I'm tired of blaming you for things, Dad. And the two of them hug. This is what I mean. I think season 5 is definitely going to have that theme of fatherhood, especially where Miguel ends up going into, moving into season 5, but also with Robbie and Johnny, for sure. That was a really nice moment there. And it's, I think Robbie and Tori, certainly out of most of the sort of like the kid characters, are the ones that go through the biggest change and that I was most impressed with this series. Robbie still is that kind of villainous character, but I think definitely by the end, he's realized the error of his ways. And going into season 5, we're going to see that change in Robbie. And also Tori as well. Like, if I was going to say sort of like the best character arc for any of the kids this season, it's Tori's character. I've always liked Tori because she's been this very sort of like pantomime villain. She's been very over the top. The sort of bitchy cat fight, the Kill Bill style almost that goes on between her and Sam has always been like a long running thing. And that's still there, but there is definitely that sense of wanting to break that cycle, break that repetition. And I think that Amanda LaRusso is instrumental in that, where she does show sympathy for Tori, and she says, like, look, if you don't always have to bite back at people, some people genuinely want to do nice things for you, and accept that. And that moment, where she does show compassion towards Sam, it's not easy. And I don't think they're fully at that place where they're best friends or anything like that. But I think Tori, certainly more than Sam, is stepping up to the plate in that regard and showing that sympathy. There's that moment where she does, it's almost like a reflex action. I don't think she meant to do it, where she clocks her in the eye with her elbow. She does like an illegal move. And Terry Silver has that great moment afterwards where he says, oh, give her another one to the other eye. Just say that she walked into your elbow. It's classic Terry Silver. But when she does beat Sam fairly at that point, the first thing she does, she doesn't congratulate herself. She doesn't like whoop it up with Cobra Kai. She does run towards Sam and says, like, are you okay? And goes to help her up. And a wonderful character arc, I think, for Tori. Like, easily, she was that stereotypical villainess kind of one, femme fatale almost type of person. I know a lot of fans have ridiculed her and hated that Sam and Tori dynamic, but again, it felt like that they're breaking out of that repetitious thing that the show was going through with those characters, showing us something new. And I think that Tori was probably one of the most compelling characters of all of season 4, personally. But
no, I think that's absolutely fair. I think when you look at those early seasons, we'll say CW show again.
Yeah,
it's that, why do we want a forced love triangle? Why does there need to be a love triangle? And they are moving away from it in a much smarter way. That we got those hints across earlier seasons that she's a mother that's ill, all that kind of stuff, and Kreese has always kept an eye out. But I love this dynamic that she's consciously starting. She's trying to move on. She's trying to get her life sorted. She's trying to go to school and all that stuff. And I think even bringing the mom into it, who hasn't had much to do in the last year, bar drink wine and get drunk and mock them. The fact that she gets to story arc with her is actually quite interesting, because you don't expect, the character of the absent mother to sort of look out for the one that has. And you get this scene at the supermarket where she's trying to buy her stuff and she gets all angry. And I think you are right. I think what they're doing with Tori, they're slowly. And I think because she's descended so far into this villain territory, was it the attack at when she put on was it the knuckle dusters with spikes last year in season 3?
That was season 2. That was at the school, 2. And then season 3 was where they had the big fight at Daniel.
Did she have nunchucks or something? There was something there.
Yeah, it was another cat fight between the two of them.
Yeah, and it's reached this point that I don't think you can just not forgive her on the spot, but you can't just. Okay, they're friends now, it's done. You need to get to a point where it's okay. Let's begin a character trajectory. And what I loved of is actually one of the last things they did is that she's the one that witnessed the bribery from Terry Silver to the ref, which is probably going to have a massive say in the next season. But I think it's really interesting that that's the one character they picked to see that moment, because she'll be the most conflict of them, and she's on this journey towards the light again. And I'm very curious to see what happens, because I still don't like the character of Sam that much.
Same.
I don't think it's the actress's fault. I think it is she's playing the spoilt brat, ends up doing karate, the dad's favorite child, all that kind of stuff.
And I still feel like she is that even at the end of season 4 a little bit too.
And I think when they're writing her, they're sort of being not written into a corner, because she's been that same character for 3-4 seasons now, it's really hard to divert away. And because they're doing so well with the Tory, they're almost 180ing it into being okay. Let's make Sam the villain of the duo now. It's like the classic wrestling. It's very rarely when I used to watch it get done properly, but it's the heel and the face turn. But sometimes they do it in the exact same wrestling match where across one night the villain becomes the hero becomes the villain. And it was something that was very rare in wrestling. And I feel like they've almost done it with Cobra Kai, that they know that everyone's kind of bored of Sam, maybe is an understatement, doesn't like Sam. So let's take this stuff everyone hates about her, actually make her a villain for it, and turn Tori into being the good character. I think they've edged that as much as they can for season 4. And I think that's going to be a massive point across season 5. And, we got all this stuff of Sam that, she wants Johnny's fighting style, not her dad's. I love all that kind of stuff. Brings back to the pettiness of the parents. But I don't think she's going to put Cobra Kai. It's a bit extreme. But it's something where, she's getting more dark and more villainous. Miguel is Mexico. So where is she going to be next year? And I think this is the character out to watch, and I think she's going to end up being a villain. I could be wrong, but I think the way they're handling that character, because as I said, the writing of this season has been so good on the younger characters, because the whole school dramas, it's so easy to get swept up in that. But I feel like they've moved past a lot of these actors. I think we said it in the spoiler free. They've all, not the fact they've hit puberty, but it's like Harry Potter, right? You get go from Chamber of Secrets to Azkaban, that's a humongous jump. It's only been like a year and a half, whereas with Cobra Kai season 3 to 4, you can see there's been a couple of years in between. It'll be the same thing with Strange Things. And I think these are probably more likely to be actors now. They're more mature. They're doing more things outside of Cobra Kai. They're naturally going to get better at what they do. And I think they're starting to get the material to deliver with that. And it's very interesting with these guys where they're going to head towards, because, I'm going to say again, the fact that Kenny can get introduced and get a compelling character arc, they're going to 100% do that to any established character.
Yeah, and I'm not adverse to the whole teenage relationship dynamic and stuff going on in Cobra Kai, because it is a coming of age thing fundamentally, and that is a huge part of growing up. So it does have its place there. I do think though in some of the previous series, they have dwelled on that stuff quite a lot and have used it as a crutch a little bit when there has been much more interesting and drama-filled stuff going on, whereas that's always been kind of like a side piece running alongside it. Yeah, Sam's arc in this one, it's all about her independence. And, she's kind of sick of the warring and you must be this or you must be that. And by the end of it, she does kind of become her own person, which is exemplified by use everything you've got, use my teachings, Daniel's, and use Johnny's as well, and be your own person, which she does, and she still fails, which is hilarious. But I think that as a character arc isn't a bad character arc, learning to be yourself and, chart your own path. But it also, you mentioned that kind of spoiled rich brat, which Sam is. And, daddy, I want to be my own person stamps for. And that kind of is what her character arc is through this. So it still feels a little bit, it feels very Sam. I'll just say that. But I agree. I think that shift in the dynamic between the two, maybe Sam might even be conscious of the fact that Tori did rush to help her, or maybe she's going to be hung up on the fact that Tori gave her an elbow to the eye. I don't know, but when Tori lifted up that trophy, it felt right. And I wouldn't have had that if Sam held up that trophy, and I didn't even think about the Miguel stuff, they do rekindle that relationship by the end of it. I'm interested to know what her, what's going to be going through her head when Miguel's out of the picture. But I think that will do Miguel a service as well, because he's not going to be relying again as a crutch to that relationship story with Sam and patching things up with her. He's going to be very much on a quest of his own independence, trying to find his real life father and, all of that stuff. And Sam, I think now that she is independent, we might even see more from Sam's character. But I do agree with you that, we'll be going into 5 seasons where Sam has been this very samey character. It's not impossible, but it is very difficult to kind of turn her around and make her a character that we care about. I don't know if it's the acting. I don't know. It could be a combination of that and the writing, but Sam does feel like she's very much stagnated as a character. So that is one of my hopes for season 5, that they do. I don't even want to say give her more to do, because I'm kind of so over Sam's character that if they gave loads of scenes to her, I would think this is kind of taking me out of the series a little bit more. But I hope that they do something with her. And, we've kind of talked about Miguel there as well. There was one moment in the series where I was worried that, that retread, that same equality. I think it was the end of episode 9 where he goes to do that like jumping, spinning kick, and his back goes again,
Uh,
and then
I
he's
thought it
like,
was his leg. It reminded me of that awful when someone breaks a leg in TV and film, they put it backwards.
oh yeah, like
I thought
compound
they'd
fracture, the
done
bone
that.
sticking out or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought they did that with his leg, and I was like, for fuck's sake, not one of these plot arcs. But I was wrong. But also, I'll say this to get onto it, not respect back. The fact this isn't weekly streaming benefits a lot of shows. I think, it's all about word of mouth, keeping you going. Why should you come back this time next week? A lot of shows have nailed that. I think Disney have been very smart in doing that. Obviously, Netflix has their binge model. This is the kind of episode where if you'd have waited a fucking week to find out
Oh
he is
yeah.
fine, you would be absolutely fuming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the fact that it was like a needlessly tense finale to an episode that didn't need to be done. How
Yeah.
many people are going to sit there at home on Netflix and be like, you know what? I'm not going to go to the next episode now. Not now. I've just seen this cliffhanger. Whereas, something like Mandalorian, it's like, come back next week to find out what happened to Baby Yoda.
You'd be losing your mind, wouldn't you, over that?
Yeah,
like, what's it gonna be?
and this is where I kind of stand with it. The whole like streaming binge versus weekly. Every show is going to benefit from one or the other. Cobra Kai is 100% a binge show. Do all 10 on the same day. A lot of people have been doing it. It's short episodes. Each episode has its own story arc within itself, but there's always stuff happening. There's not enough tension-filled drama to make you wait week after week after week. And I just want to say, sorry, before you give your thoughts, that's one of my actual biggest criticisms, which is such a minor criticism. That stupid.
It's all in slow motion, like echoing audio.
Is the camera like spinning? It's like spinning up the camera, isn't it? As well, like it's like died or something. I'm not, we've seen him be paralyzed and recover already, so you can't really chuck another injury at him unless he's physically going to like lose a leg.
It is so overblown. Like I think, like doesn't it end where he goes like "Sensei" and then boom, cut to black. I don't even think there's music over that. The ending of that episode.
Yeah, it's like a proper ending.
It's like the Red Wedding where it just cut and it was silence, and you're like, oh my god, like is he paralyzed again? What's that? Is he paralyzed properly this time? Then beginning of the next episode, it's like, oh, it's just a pulled muscle in his back. He'll be fine. Just put some ointment on it. He'll be good. It's like, yeah. I thought there was going to do something with that, but when it went into that, I thought, oh, for God's sake, are we going to have like a whole other series where we've got to get him walking again, or he's gone the same way and it's going to be exactly the same thing? I do think it was a bit unnecessary, but I do like the fact that he didn't come back onto the mat. Again, it plays with your expectations. He is sort of like the favorite child, isn't he? Almost, he is the favorite student of the group. He is the one that, when all of them, because the tournament's different this time, isn't it? There's like different skill sets. There's like a weapon set. There's, all different, like a flow, like a move set, and then there's the actual combat stuff. And when Eagle Fang are down in points, Johnny is kind of putting all of his eggs in one basket, saying, oh, it's fine, we've got Miguel, like he's already the champion, he's going to be fine, he's going to take it home. It is kind of like an act of sort of that rebellious nature of Miguel, and sort of knowing it all goes back to that moment, doesn't it? That drunken moment with Johnny where, he accidentally said or intended to say Robbie, and that just completely gutted Miguel. So from that point onwards, he knows that he doesn't even have any ties to Johnny, this person who he thought was his father. The reality kind of kicked in there where it's like, no, he isn't. He's just, a guy, and I need to go and find my own father out there. But I like that they do that countdown, and it is tense. And they even poke fun that it's tense as well. They're like a countdown clock, really. And they go, oh, it's the All Valley. It's the All Valley tournament. It's all drama. And he doesn't come out onto the mat. I thought that was, and that makes also the end of this series, the end of this tournament, not as samey again. Because could you imagine you have another Robbie versus, who was, it was Robbie versus Hawk, wasn't it, in this, but Robbie versus Miguel in the first one. And it just keeps it fresh, because that could have been a retread in and of itself. And then from that point onwards, you'd probably know that Robbie would win, mate, because you can't have Miguel win twice, because, like, where's the drama there? You would probably
kind of Robbie lose twice.
It's the Rocky thing, isn't it? Rocky spoiler alert, Rocky loses in Rocky 1. When you get to Rocky 2, you know that he's going to win that fight. So there's not as much drama there, because you know where it's going to go. So just keep it fresh for Hawk as well. But it was needlessly overblown. I get it for like the end of an episode, but for its payoff in the beginning of episode 10, you didn't need to have all that. It did feel very... I don't know what the word is. It's just very forced. It was forced drama, wasn't it? Forced tension. Yeah, exactly.
I think you're right. That's why I struggled. You mentioned Hawk as well. Even the tournament itself, by Miguel not being in that final, I thought was one of the best things they actually did. Like, if they know he's going to go off to Mexico at some point in this series to search for his dad. He doesn't need to win the tournament. He doesn't need to be in the final. He doesn't need to lose a final and think he's got to rethink his life. I love that they consciously made him go out and put Hawk through, because I don't know if it's the right time to segue into Hawk's character arc now, but Hawk has a very interesting season where he doesn't have an awful lot to do, yet he has a compelling arc throughout. That, we've had his whole kind of redemption last time, but kind of not redemption. But in this one, it's it's the metaphorical. He's lost his hair, he's lost his power, all that kind of ridiculous
That was my
stuff.
mojo. Pretty much is, isn't it? Really? But...
Yeah, and I think, how many times have you predicted the winner of this tournament across the last year?
Yeah, I was thinking back to when we watched season 3. You were like predicting the pair-offs. You were going to be like, right, it's going to be Tori versus Sam, which you were right about. I can't remember who you said Robbie was against. Did you say...
So I originally thought the final would be, I think I said Sam versus Robbie, but it's that kind of mindset that each person's being trained by the opposition. Like Robbie's dad is training Sam, blah, blah, blah. And Cobra. I think that's how, I can't remember, but the one no one saw coming was the restructuring to that tournament, which when they first said, oh, it's now a women's division and a men's division, like, this is bollocks. And I actually think that was a very smart way to bring in the drama for the series. That, obviously you had the it was funny though, because really side piece, really relevant, sorry. The fact is like, okay, now we need a whole women's All Valley tournament for the women's league. I'm like, but there's 2 women characters, and they I know they shoehorned in like a 3rd or 4th this year really quietly. Like, here's the gymnast from school, here's all this. We knew we were always going to get Tori versus Sam, which I absolutely loved. As I said, because Tori's had this new character arc, and I've gone past the Hawks, which is where I was on. Sorry, I'm segueing, but yeah, the changes to the tournament were really cool because it meant story-wise they were able to do new things. But going back to Hawk, Hawk winning the tournament, I think made the most sense. It's a complete redemption arc across 2 seasons. That he hasn't just left Cobra Kai. He's at this new team. He's lost his hair, but he's able to win this tournament and go on to that next level. And I think it was a really smart way to sort of give him the limelight.
Yeah, no, I like where Hawk ends up this series. His journey there is very shaky, though. I will say that in some respects. And it's a season that I am going to have to rewatch because there are some bits I've forgotten. But I remember when he starts off, he's not welcomed into Miyagi-Do, is he, from the off? Like, I think, doesn't he destroy the dojo or something like that out of like rebellion kind of thing? And then I remember him getting his hair shaved. And then all of a sudden he's kind of welcomed with open arms back into the crew. And maybe there are some bits that I'm forgetting about his character where it is more of an effective lead up to that. But I remember it being very quick and it not really following on from that huge amount of tension that was there from the beginning. But yeah, where he ends up, it is the sort of like the classic arc, isn't it? Like he's down on his luck, he's lost his confidence, and then all it takes is like one kiss, and then all of a sudden, oh no, he's back. He's Hawk that you remember. So it is very easy, like, is it Moon? Is that the name of a character?
Yeah.
Moon's character, where it's just, it feels very cliche, but the fact that he wins it, yeah, it's a great dynamic. And Hawk is a character that I really enjoy. So, I'm not against him winning the trophy or anything like that. Of course, there's the moment where, business is getting serious now. Shirts come off, abs on display, Hawk tattoo. I do like when he flexes and like you get that like Hawk, like, oh, like that Hawk cry, like every time. Yeah. It's so, it's
sound
really
effect. It's like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, exactly. It's so stupid, but it always just, I don't know, brings a smile to my face every time. I've seen a lot of people be negative on sort of like the fight choreography during the tournament as well, in some respects, and maybe it was just me. I thought it was really cool. They had a lot more sort of slow-mo in, I would say. It's almost like that Zack Snyder kind of thing, like the fast-mo slow-mo, but I don't know how much of the actors, did it themselves. Like Robbie's character seems like maybe he does martial arts in his everyday life, or maybe he just does it in the lead up to this. And I don't know if they did use body doubles for some stuff. There's bits where Robbie's character's doing backflips, and then obviously it cuts to a close-up of the actor sort of like landing it. So I don't know if it is a combination of, stunt people, gymnasts, and then throwing in the actual actors in there. But all of them sort of the majority of them looked the part, you know, when it came to the fighting, I would say, and the choreography was really impressive. There might be some characters, like some of the side characters that you don't really care about anyway, where it's like you would get your ass kicked in like 1 second in a real life situation, but it is that Karate Kid thing, isn't it? It's even going back to the first film, you know, Daniel LaRusso was waxing cars and, you know, painting, and then all of a sudden he can take out someone who's like a seasoned, you know, trained karate. It's fine. It's all drama. It's whatever. But what did you think to the sort of like the fight choreography? Maybe it was, you know, the music, the score was really good. I thought would, you know, really help the impact of those fights. But did you think it was filmed a bit? I've seen like shaky cam mentioned. I've heard that the choreography is just really bad. It didn't really bother me so much.
I thought it was fine. I thought it looked a lot better than season 1. And I think that, you know, again, look at season 1 versus season 4. This spanned 2 episodes, which is worth mentioning. This tournament covers 2 episodes out of the 10, which is the kind of screen time it deserves. And
I think you predicted that as well, didn't you, last year? That it would be like a 2-parter. Yeah.
And you've got to think, you can't have the same fight done every time. So how many matches do we get to see in total? You know, we've got, you know, 2 finals, 2 sets of semi-finals, and there's more karate in this than any other thing. And I thought the choreography was fine. I think it was smart in how they set some stuff up with the referee that, you know, it's that sort of sport thing where you glance at a replay and you're not going to get a replay. The referee just points and says, that's exactly what's happened here. And obviously that's going to be a big segue into next season. But I thought the choreography was fine. The thing I didn't like was that I got the purpose, the stupid spin your weapons magic rounds of the tournament. I know that's a thing at like actual like events and things that they do all the weapons training. It reminded me of Shang-Chi a bit, but it was just like, yeah, just get to the actual fighting, please. It was a really bring in the drama of here's the dojo versus the other dojo. It's like, oh, we've had the dancing rounds. Now we have to get to the proper fighting round to determine the winner. It's kind of like, I get where you're coming from, but it was just a bit. It was a cheap way of them putting their backs up against the wall. That, oh no, we've got to win everything to win this now. I thought it was just a bit lame in truth, that aspect of it. But the actual karate choreography in the fights, I absolutely loved it. And again, the whole watermelon spin, everything coming full motion, you know, things they were training earlier in the season ended up benefiting from. And something as simple as, you know, Cobra Kai learning the Miyagi-Do defense stuff.
With the clips as well. I love that, where it cuts to, you know, where he beats Chosen at the end of 2 and he does that. There's the sort of like the tire pump, wasn't it, from one of the episodes of Cobra Kai. I loved how they brought all that stuff into it. And it's like, oh God, they know all our moves.
It reminded me of like Spider-Man 1. Not that it ever copies it, but it's like the whole like he knows who I am phone call. Like that was LaRusso, that moment. And then obviously you just get, I think is Cobra Kai like laughing at him, like the fact that they know that he now knows they know. Just amazing. It's the kind of, you know, again, it's a fucking karate tournament. Like, it's funny, it's got so insane, but it was a really smart way of doing it, and it just evens out, because I do think it's, I know sport and everything, everyone's got their own styles, but it is a bit boring that there are 3 ways. There is the Cobra Kai way, the Miyagi-Do way, and the Eagle Fang way. It's just a bit like, let all of them know all of it and just let them fight and have it out. And I think that's what it did, and it just made it more exciting to watch as a viewer. So I think I disagree with what some people said, but I can see where some of it comes from the criticism. But I think for the key fights, we got longer scenes, which is exactly what we needed. You know, I know we didn't get the sort of, again, my favorite in the season 1 is probably still the kick, when they do the Karate Kid 1 kick bit, like the knockout. That's still one of the best things we've had in the entire 4 seasons. But I do like the fact we didn't get like a rip-off of that in this. We just got to see different fighting styles. I
keep forgetting it's a tournament as well. Like the focus is where it needs to be. It's very much on Miyagi-Do, Eagle Fang, and Cobra Kai. But there are so many other dojos there as well. Yeah, and, when you pull back to the wide shot and you see like all the different crew, I was like, wait, who is that? I was like, oh God, yeah, it's a tournament. There's different dojos here, but they never focus on them. They never really show them. So it feels like it is this 3-way battle more than like an actual tournament. And I think back to Karate Kid 1. I know it's all in a montage, you know, you're the best around and everything. It's, you know, breeze through really quickly. But I do think you at least see some other people from other tournaments and other groups and everything, I'm pretty sure, in that film. But again, I know where it's keeping the focus. And speaking of montage, I might be jumping ahead to sort of, I don't know if it's a favorite moment. It might be like a fan favorite moment, I suppose, but we're talking about the tournament, so why not? The Connie Underwood scene. It's kind of like, we've recently watched the Matrix film, right? And those people in the boardroom meeting feel very caricatures, like cartoon characters, how they talk. And I've always had that with the fight organizers, like the event organizers in this, and they're still the same in this one. And there's this kind of like running theme about how they're going to call for a vote of no confidence. It reminded me of Phantom Menace in that regard. She's like, oh, next season I'm going to call for a vote of no confidence in the director of this, whatever. And then he gets Connie Underwood, and they're making like this huge deal, and she's like this pop star that comes out. And I did get the impression that I didn't know if she was a real life pop star or if she was like a fictitious pop star within this Karate Kid world kind of thing. Apparently she's a real person. I don't know who she is. And it started up, and I thought, oh God, like this is where the season dies. We're going to get this really cheesy, crappy pop song. And then it started off, and it's a cover of Survivor's song from the end credits of Karate Kid 1, The Moment of Truth. Survivor's one of my favorite bands. I love that song to death. And I thought it was a really good version. And I've seen a lot of people mixed on this.
I hated it. Sorry.
That's absolutely, it is the Marmite effect of this scene. I've seen some people say this is the most pointless, ridiculous, on the nose scene ever. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And I loved every second of it. So hearing that song, it's the montage thing again. It's that kind of modern 80s feel to it with like the keyboards in the background. I was fine with it. And then I've seen some people say it shouldn't have been the moment of truth. It should have been You're the Best from the first Karate Kid film. And we all know they're saving that for the final season. They're saving that for the final tournament, and they'll play that song, whether it's the original or a cover song. I've seen some people say that if they were going to do a montage in this song, they should have just used the actual song from Karate Kid, the Survivor song, and not had this pop icon come out. The only reason she's in this series, apparently, and I only found this out earlier today, was apparently she did a tweet about Cobra Kai saying how much of a big fan of it she was. How much of that is her being genuine, or how much of it is, there's a chance I might sneak myself into Cobra Kai here. I'll let you be the judge of that. But she's in there, and she sings The Moment of Truth. And I don't know. It was that it's pointless nostalgia. I get that. And, usually I'm negative of that. I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember it. I know where that's from. But it just worked for me. And it's my undying love of 80s songs and 80s cheese. And I don't know, it just kind of brought it together for me. So I didn't have a problem with it. Over to you. Go on. Tear it a new
I don't have any problems having a song being recited or anything. It is the pointless D-lister cameo. And I'm just going to say it.
That's
it's
fair.
Not the fact I'm behind on music and I don't know who it is.
Guilty.
I don't know. It really takes you out the episodes. The fact that it's not like someone comes out and they recite 20 seconds of a song and then they get to the next scene. It is a full appearance. It's like, what, 3-4 minutes long, that scene, maybe?
They play it over a montage, though, and it goes through the whole semi-finals, doesn't it, over the top? So it moves on. It's not like it just focuses on her on stage the whole time, which I would have had a problem with, probably.
But they still almost do by letting it be a thing. And it's where it just took me out of it for a few minutes that by bringing in a celebrity, I know it's fictional anyway, but I think before and I we kind of said that we joked that, right? Andrew Garfield's a massive Cobra Kai fan. Are they going to whack him in season 5? I mean, I'm not going to complain about Andrew Garfield. He's a phenomenal actor, and he's not an A-lister either. He is, he's probably going to get his Oscar nomination in the next month, and he's in with Netflix. But I wouldn't want Andrew Garfield to pop up and be like, hey, I'm Andrew Garfield. I'm going to introduce this karate tournament to you all because I'm a massive fan of Cobra Kai. Thank you. Bye. I would hate that, even as someone that really likes Andrew Garfield. And it's just that not losing momentum type thing. But it just feels like, of every celebrity in the world to ever see the watch Cobra Kai, was that the best one you got? Like, it
was like last season we had Dee Snider, didn't we, from Twisted Sister, where he takes Miguel to that rock concert and they play like We're Not Going to Take It or something, 80s hair metal band that is very much Johnny Lawrence's type of music. So
and it fits in character, of the world, and it's a big moment. He begins to be able to move his toes. Sorry again, and I don't mind things like that, but it just I would give it this. When she came out, I thought she was going to sing the national anthem. Because you know how like every American sport it's a thing in America. I would never understand it, and I absolutely don't care if that offends anyone. It is weird to sing your national anthem before every single club game of every single sport in your country. I would never understand it. It is not normal, and thank God it doesn't happen here, and it's actually your international football team playing. Sorry, Skip, that's nothing to do with Cobra Kai, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did do it. Let's be honest. But no, I get the cameo. And like I said, it's just, I mean, I know we got the press copies, and basically what happened last year, for anyone that wasn't following, we got given like a bullet point of things we can't talk about in the spoiler free, which we wouldn't have talked about anyway. But last year they spoiled it on the main email, but I'd never seen Karate Kid, so none of those meant anything to me. But this year I read the letter, but I had it locked up on my screen so that if they did the colon, it was off screen what was written. And when I finished watching the show, I read the letter, and it was all the spoilers as last time. But it was her cameo was one of the really big ones. It's like, please not reveal to anyone that Carrie Underwood is in this. I'm like, who cares? We'll Google it, but it's not a returning Cobra Kai character. I think this is just more it's like when Ed Sheeran in Game of Thrones, right? Okay, it's cool you're a fan. And even he popped up in that awful Netflix film last year called Red Notice, and it's cringy as fuck. But it's this whole answer of, a singer wants to do X, Y, and Z. It's not Lady Gaga who's saying, I want to be an actor, I want an actual role in things to do. But it's the whole, like, I just want to stick my face in where I'm not needed or wanted. And again, I think Ed Sheeran Game of Thrones, nothing will probably ever be as bad as that, if I'm going to be blunt. Cameos, I'm sure there might be some awful ones over the years. But, it just took me out of it for a couple of minutes.
I think they could have got around it by just playing the original song over a montage.
Yeah, play the original song. Do anything, but just the whole the fact they make jokes like, "Oh my god, it's Carrie Underwood," like they're acting like they've won the lottery with who's turned up. Just
the circumstances of the cameo, I don't agree with that whole social media thing. Just saying, like, I want to be in this, and then they put them in there. But honestly, I think what won me over was just hearing the song in some way, shape, or form. I would have preferred the original, but I actually thought she did sing a pretty good cover version of it. I will say that. So it was purely the song. It was just my it's nostalgia, isn't it? It's the jangling keys. Oh, you remember it, but I don't know. It hit me at that time. We do have a comment here. I'm just going to bring this up real quick before we move on to the next bit. Will there be another tournament where the main teams could feasibly compete, where Miguel, Sam, etc. age out? Well, I don't know, because I know the actors are sort of in their probably pushing late 20s by the time that season 5 comes out, or certainly season 6. But I think they give their ages in this. Aren't they meant to be like 17?
Is it under 18 to the tournament? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to be blunt. I guess it depends how many seasons there's going to be. If the 5th season is the final season, which I somehow doubt for some reason, I don't know. It feels like this should be a 6-season type show. They're setting up too much for the next one to be the last one.
The showrunners have said that they envision 6 series, like that's where they want to end it. But I know that Netflix has only greenlit season 5 so far. Yeah,
and I've said this to you, and on a film just because it all began as films. I'm going to be blunt. Right now I don't want another tournament. 100 million% not a tournament in the next series. Now, if it was a season 6, maybe. But I don't like the idea of them shoehorning in another Raw Valley. I think this was the perfect season for it, and they did it so well. And you are right. If they have age, it is going to hit in the next year or two. He's saying they've said 6 seasons and spin-offs.
Oh, no.
What spin-offs are we going to get? That's a very interesting conversation. What spin-offs could we get from Cobra?
Young Kreese and Terry Silver, or Stingray. There you go.
There's so many spin-offs we could do, but no, not another tournament. What about you?
I think one might be justified in season 6 just because that's inherently what Karate Kid's all about, right? That's where it kind of always ends to. And even if you look at the original trilogy, the first one ended with a tournament, the second one did something completely different. That was more of it did end on a fight, but it was more like a fight for actually survival than it was a tournament. And then 3 came out and it kind of reset the status quo. You brought Kreese back into the fold, Cobra Kai, and you ended on another tournament. So, you've had one at the end of season 1, you've had a gap for 2 and 3, you've had another one at 4. If you have a gap for 5, I could go into another one for 6. I think it depends who the fighters are, and where the characters are going to end up by that point. Because, a tournament right now made sense for sort of like the dynamic and where all the characters were, Sam versus Tori and all the other pairings that we've mentioned. So it'll be interesting to see where those dynamics are. But again, if you have like another Tori and Sam thing, if you drag that out for another 2 series, you've kind of already done it with this one. So I'm down for another tournament, but I think the whole circumstances of the whole thing and the dynamic of everyone involved is going to have to be completely different. They mentioned about sort of like the younger people competing. No one cares about the younger people. You know, you got that kind of like the wimpier, skinnier kid with the glasses, with like the blonde hair. You've got that new girl character that was introduced, who's kind of like the mathematician, who's like bringing in like numbers and digits and facts. Like, are you really going to be that invested in seeing all them fight it out? Like, I don't think so. Your main ones are Robbie and Tori and Sam and Miguel. Like, that is and Hawk as well, you know, throw him in there. That's always going to be your bread and butter when it comes to Cobra Kai. But yeah, I could see season 6 ending on another tournament, because I don't really know what else they can do, because even outside of the tournament,
like Rocky 5.
Oh, maybe that could be kind of cool, actually. But you know, thinking back to the other ones, like one had fantastic ending, it was earned, you know, the tournament. This one had a great ending too. 2 at the school I thought was way overblown. I never liked the ending to season 2. I just thought, I know Cobra Kai gets ridiculous, but that was like too much for me. And I didn't like the house fight either at the end of season 3. It feels like each season has to end with some kind of fight, but I always think the best ones they've done so far are the ones that are on the mat and not in a different location. So yeah, a tournament in 6 and play, you know, you're the best around. Don't bring Connie Underwood out to do another cover of it, but at least play that song, and yeah, should be onto a winner, I think.
I can see that. I think I said that it all depends on how season 5 goes, because obviously 3 ended with the let's go one more time at a tournament. And obviously, you know, I guess one thing we can probably speak about looking forward is that obviously the way this tournament ended, Cobra Kai won, which meant that obviously the 2 couldn't work. What was the clause of season 3? If Cobra Kai wins, then Eagle Fang and Miyagi-Do can no longer do karate, and that Cobra Kai will reign supreme.
I think so. Yeah, I think that was it.
And what's the great loophole to get around this? Well, let's send Johnny to Mexico, which is a great storyline, which I'm looking forward to. And then Miyagi-Do's like, right, let's bring back Chosen, and we'll probably have a Miyagi-Do, you know, it's got a B at the end of it to make it different from the last one. I like the fact that the tournament is going to have a kick-on effect, and we know that the bribery stuff is going to probably have a dramatic effect for what happens next season, maybe. I think that's way too big a thing. I mean, my only criticism of the bribery thing is, do we need a subplot about a referee being bribed? It's very... I understand it for the purpose of the episode and the series, but I don't want an arc with the tournament organizers talking about corruption and having referees and going to trial. Cut all of that. If they're going to do a revelation about it being cheated, I hope they just do it on screen, get it done with, and then move on to set up a character arc, or, actually, these tournaments can fight again. I don't know, that's me looking into it a little bit too much.
Yeah, I hope with I mean, Terry Silver alludes to like bringing more people on board and getting all these chains of Cobra Kai going and everything like that. And I think it will be a shame if, you know, he does do that and Cobra Kai has this, you know, huge reach across the valley, and then all of a sudden Tori goes to the authorities or something and gets proven that it was a bribe, and then they all get dismantled in one season. And even if season 6 ended like that, I'd be really underwhelmed by that, and I don't like the idea of that. Clearly it's going to filter in somewhere. And whether that's going to be now that she's won the title, you know, she sees that, because you feel so good for Tori in that moment. And I think, you know, when she sees that it was all a bribe and that I think she would have lost in all honesty then, wouldn't she? If she would have been given a point, wouldn't Sam have taken it overall?
Sam would have won. Yeah, that's what that point was. Sam would have won, yeah.
So because of that, that has kind of taken away that sense of victory that she had in herself. You know, she had to prove to herself that she could win. And ultimately down to that, she probably didn't if you look at points. So I think that's going to have a knock-on effect with Sam, and maybe she will break away from Cobra Kai, you know, and continue that sort of like hero's journey. But if she does kind of go and dismantle Cobra Kai, I don't like the idea of that. So I hope it doesn't go in that direction. But yeah, in terms of, I don't know if you mentioned Chosen there, for example, as well, like another thing. I didn't know who it was going to be, you know, when the camera was pulling back. I've always toyed with the idea of it, you know, let's get Hilary Swank back in there. Not a great Karate Kid film. In fact, it's the one that everyone forgets, and quite rightly so. We did a review on it and we hated it. But, you know, if she did show up in some way, I'd be fine with that. You know, she is the other student of Miyagi, essentially. I love Chosen. I loved seeing him in season 3. I loved his character journey as well. Thought it was fantastic, and it's going to be great to see him back in season 5. I do think it's a weird pick though for a character for Daniel to join forces with the goal of taking down Cobra Kai, because Chosen didn't know anything about Cobra Kai. You know, he knew Miyagi, but this isn't about Miyagi. This is just about Cobra Kai, and he doesn't know who Kreese is. He doesn't know who Terry Silver is, or Mike Barnes, or any of the stuff that Daniel LaRusso went through. I know you could say that Hilary Swank didn't either, but I think that might have, because they're both students of Miyagi, they've both been taught by him, them joining forces would have made more sense for me in some way. But we've got Chosen, and you know what, I'm not going to say no to seeing more Chosen, because the guy is epic, and he was epic in season 3, and I'm sure he will be in the next one. And because of that, you've got this sort of, you know, Johnny is going to be focusing, you know, he's going to be going to Mexico to deal with Miguel. And I think the next season is going to be very Johnny centric, actually. I can absolutely see it being sort of like focused on him, and that being the emotional crux, and more of the action side of it. You've got this new sort of like duo with Daniel and Chosen. And now you're going to have a new duo, I think, where you've got Terry Silver. Kreese is out of the picture, but he does mention about recruiting people, and I think that person's going to be Mike Barnes. We have always wondered, you know, the actor's been going to a lot of conventions, and I'm always like, is he going to be in season 4? And I think as a fan of Karate Kid, I want them to throw everyone in there, you know, just bring them all back, like every side character and everything like that. But I do like how it is paced. I think if they had brought Mike Barnes into season 4, that would have been too much, because it would have taken away from Terry Silver's development and the focus on him. But I think now that you have established Terry Silver as the head honcho, we've kind of had his origin story and where he is by the end of this season. Mike Barnes is coming back for season 5, surely. And you're going to have that sort of like duo dynamic once again, but with Chosen and Daniel and Mike and Terry, which I think will be really cool to see.
Yeah, and this is where I stand with it as well, that Mike Barnes is natural now at this point to bring in, that, you know, he's got rid of Kreese, and he's got this big plan to make more Cobra Kai, more dojos to dominate the world, and
he had a 50% stake or something, didn't he, in the deal in Karate Kid 3? Like on all these trains,
he did, didn't he?
50% stake or something.
He was like a national champion as well, wasn't he? And it will make sense to bring him back. The Chosen stuff's interesting because I think season 3 was almost like a backdoor pilot. Like season 3 was really good, but it was like the Japan stuff is probably what really pushed it to this personal level. All the stuff about Miyagi, it was fascinating. I think by bringing Chosen back again, I mean, it's not like Thomas and Griffin not doing anything for years, but I think if the actor did a lot of commercials, he didn't do a lot of things in America, and I wonder if it was like a test. Because okay, did people react well to him being in it? Yes, they all did. Let's get him back in for the future, and I think that's where Chosen was. And again, you know, he knows karate. He's a cool character as well. That's another important thing. But because he's full of audiences, they can kind of do what they want with him. As you say, he doesn't know any characters, which makes it not necessarily frustrating, but you know, to be there at the gravestone waiting for him, which I think everyone thought was Hilary Swank. I'm not gonna lie. It makes it very intriguing to see what his plan will be again, because he doesn't know them. You know, does he read the karate news websites that might have told it about the Valley? I don't know, but it's just one of those things where if they've brought him back, I hope there's a good reason for it. But I do trust in the way in which they've been able to bring back Terry Silver and all these other characters. I don't think they've brought back anyone and not benefited from them coming back. I'm thinking too short sighted. Like even the Cobra Kai guys in season 1, getting that one-off adventure with each other. Yeah, that was bringing them all back for like one episode, and it worked really well. And I think they've been able to get the balance right of storytelling with nostalgia with these returning characters. And yeah, story wise, I think what I would bet on is Chosen's going to run a Karate Kingdom, and he's going to go up against Cobra Kai. Then there'll be a big reveal that Daniel LaRusso is actually helping him, or something like that. I don't know. It's a very interesting setup because it could be a cool double act. But I really hope, and I think it might actually make more logical sense than the whole ending season 3 with Daniel and Johnny, because we knew they clashed and they didn't deliver. I think Chosen and LaRusso's got less chance of clashing, and it'll be more about the respect for the karate. So, on a side tangent, the Chosen surprise is one of the better ones personally. But if Mike Barnes does come back, that's going to be very weird. I mean, I like Karate Kid 3. But it's going to be, you know, what's going to happen to Kreese? Like, is Kreese going to break out of prison? Is he going to go to prison? Like, all these questions. And I haven't even spoken about Stingray yet as well.
Oh yeah! Oh my god, the Stingray
it's
stuff
just,
is brutal.
it's just one of those things where, you know, some shows they write the ending before they get there, whereas this one feels like they know what they were doing all along this entire season, and they always knew they would end it with these exact story beats, and I just absolutely love them for it.
Yeah, you can definitely tell there's a plan there, and they might not have everything planned, but you can tell that they've got like an outline at least, which is sort of like guiding them to the next. And you know, as the series have gone through, you know, we've seen more and more characters come back. Season 1 goes without saying, you have Daniel LaRusso and Johnny come back and everything like that. Then you lead into Kreese. And then through into season 3, you have more people from Karate Kid 2 showing up. And then now with Terry Silver having people from Karate Kid 3. And I'm thinking of all the other characters from Karate Kid. You know, Elizabeth Shue came back as well, which was a wonderful thing. You mentioned earlier about that we hope that, you know, Terry Silver as the actor could have just showed up for a few episodes and then left, but he is here to stay. You know, with Elizabeth Shue's character, I'm fine with her just having that 1 to 2 episode arc that she had. I thought that did exactly what it needed to. But now we're getting into Karate Kid 3 territory, especially if we bring Mike Barnes into it. And there are loads of other characters in Karate Kid 3 I'd love to see come back. I was just looking for their names because I couldn't remember them. There were 2 other henchmen as well that Silver had in Karate Kid 3 that sort of like hung out with Mike Barnes, and it's Snake and Dennis. I would love to see them come back. You may as well at this point. You're bringing every other old cast member back, so I'd love to see them come back in some way. And I think the only other character that I can think of other than Hilary Swank is the sort of the love interest, if you will, from Karate Kid 3. What was her name? Jessica or something? Sort of the red-headed girl who owned the pottery shop, whatever it was across the road. Bring them into it. You've pretty much gone through every single character. So maybe we'll get them in 5 or maybe into 6, but I would love to see them sort of pick up those extra characters as they go through it. But yeah, you mentioned Stingray there. And I mean, I love Stingray. He feels wildly out of place. And there are some bits as well that just feel really uncomfortable, where he's like, oh, let's have an after school party at my place, and he's an adult and they're still meant to be 16, 17. I'm like, this is awkward and weird. But he is a likable character. He is fun, and he does feel wildly out of place in Karate Kid, but I'm fine with him. I like the actor as well. I do think he has really good comedic timing. But if you hate the character of Stingray, I think you're going to love this season because he gets happy slapped to hell in this film, doesn't he? He is just, he's on a drip. He's on a hospital gurney. I think when Kreese is arrested, the cop says that you're under arrest for attempted murder. And when you get to that scene where Terry Silver is just laying into it, yeah, I believe it. It does look like attempted murder. So I love that sort of like dodgy deal that Silver did behind the scenes in order to get one over on Kreese. And when something flashes back and you get like a kind of twist ending or something's put more into context, aided by that wonderful Terry Silver theme as well, where like the violins are kicking in. Brilliant place to end season 4. I wondered where it was leading to, because this series, you know, it'll go into a character. We got Stingray back. We had him getting beaten up. And then we didn't see that for like so many episodes after it, to the point where you almost forget about it, or you get into the stage where you're watching it going, well, hang on, they haven't answered what happened with that Stingray stuff. And as soon as you start to ask that question, you get the answer. And then it came back in that finale, and it was great to see him back, you know, as a returning character, because he didn't come back in season 3, I don't think, did he? Was he in season 3? I don't remember him being there. No, I know he was security guard, wasn't he, at the end of 2 during the school fight, and then I just don't think he was in 3.
Yeah, he wasn't. He wasn't in season 3. So the actor Paul Waterhauser, he is, for those that don't know, he's having a very, very good career, and it's really interesting that he's in something like Cobra Kai. Not as a discredit to him, but you know, he's been in a couple of not Scorsese, Spike Lee films. He's in Black Klansman.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
the Five Bloods. He was in Cruella that came out last year, which I think is why he wasn't in season 3. I think when he was shooting Cruella, which is when season 3 of this filmed, he was in London, whereas this film was Atlanta. And Richard Jewell, he was the main character in that, and should have had an Oscar nomination. So for an actor that's got quite big outside of TV, to go back to a really childish role in a drama, a comedy drama type thing, fair play, because apparently he absolutely loves playing Stingray. I know that some people hate him, some like him, but you know, they know what they're doing with him. Like, they know he's not a character you can really have around for long periods of time. But by bringing him in this season, you know, having the childish, the party, all that minor stuff, it all builds up to him just getting battered Terry Silver, and it's really like feisty way of doing it. You know, is it Kreese that like sent him out of the dojo, doesn't he? Like he absolutely has him, and it all builds up to the downfall that he just really wants to be in Cobra Kai. Now, I guess the big question is he going to pop up in season 5? You know, are they going to do a court case type drama thing?
That'd be so weird for Karate Kid if it goes into that, but yeah.
It'd be weird, but I think he may have served his purpose in the series now. He came back, he got the return, and they disposed of him whilst using that disposal to progress the series. So it's it's a very interesting ending for him, because who'd have thought that Stingray would actually determine the future of Cobra Kai? Then again, he never lost, did he? He was in the corridor
he won,
fight,
didn't he? He buried himself under those leaves, came out like Rambo with his headband on.
Exactly. Was it the same? Did he like yeet a kid into a locker at the school fight as well? And then we didn't see him again.
I think he hip shoves someone, doesn't he? Like, he's a big guy, you know. He's got some cushion for the push. He just like hip thrust someone. It was hilarious. And returning characters as well. Aisha shows up for a scene, or well, I was going to say scene or two. I think it is just one scene, but again, that was another character that's been out of the picture. And I think there's been various behind the scenes dramas and stuff with her. I don't really know. I read upon different things, and there's like conflicting reports as to why she wasn't in there. But I felt good seeing her character again. She was a character that I actually really liked for the first couple of seasons, and it's one that I would have loved to have seen some kind of development there. But you know, they're kind of beholden to real life circumstances as well. So I thought they got around that well. It was nice to see her back. So familiar faces returning, you know, not just Terry Silver, but again, Stingray and Aisha. I think it was nice to see her. She doesn't outstay her welcome. And I think is it like keeping Sam on the straight and narrow or something? I know she has like a heart to heart or something with Sam about being your own person or something, doesn't she? I think, but
yeah, I think the way they wrote her character as well was very much it was quite finite that her parents moved away because they could never deal with it. And, you know, unlike some shows and films, you'd be like, oh yeah, they're dead. They died off screen because we fell out. I think they brought it back in a smart way where it made sense for one scene for her to come back. She didn't pop up in a fight. She didn't pop up at the tournament. She came back for one scene. And I think that was a polite way of them probably saying, you know, we put what happened past us and we've all moved on. And I think it was a nice scene. I think, again, with Sam, one of the characters we've both struggled with, you did get a bit of actual development with it. She did go back to someone she was friends with. So it's a really interesting one.
I guess that kind of takes us on to favourite moment. I'm trying to think. I think we've done pretty much a clean sweep of season 4 so far. I know there's a lot of sort of standout moments or favourite moments, and that's exactly what we're talking about now. So if I'm thinking any of mine that we haven't talked about already, I mean, the Terry Silver stuff just goes without saying. Like the final scene, just seeing him back was absolutely wonderful. Every scene that he was in was just brilliant. I really like the music as well. Some of it's very on the nose. Like you can clearly tell that the showrunners have a love of 80s films, not just Karate Kid, you know, that goes without saying, but you know, there's references in there where he talks about Maverick from Top Gun and like all these other 80s films. And they even play another Survivor song, Burning Heart from Rocky IV, which was very strange because that's like the one thing that you don't do. And I know that Karate Kid and, you know, Rocky were directed by the same guy, but they play a Rocky IV song, and it just felt that is such a Rocky song that I can't see that translating into anything else but Rocky. So that was very strange. And even the lyrics, you know, it's like East faces West, which is all what Rocky IV's about, and it didn't really fit in with this one. But again, it's 80s music that I know and like. Ending the series on Switch 625, Def Leppard, Def Leppard, one of my favorite bands as well. There are loads of these 80s songs, and I was there with my app Shazam. And if I didn't know what a song was, I'd be holding it up to the TV and adding it to my ever-increasing Cobra Kai and Karate Kid playlist on Spotify. So loved all the music when all the 80s bits. It's very easy, and it's very Stranger Things where they'll just throw, oh, you remember this from the 80s, and it creates that kind of aesthetic to it. But I'm fine with it because I love it. Favorite scene as well. It's a flashback to Karate Kid 3, but I love how all the seasons so far have found a way to work the presence of Mr. Miyagi into it. Some seasons more so than others. You had the letter scene from the previous series, which still gets me emotional every single time I watch it. I thought it was great. But I love how I think it plays into Daniel's revelation about, you know, charting your own path and doing things your own way. Don't do it exactly like Mr. Miyagi. And it's the bit where they're planting the bonsai tree from Karate Kid 3, and they use that footage from that film. And he says, one day
you sort of like grow on your own, or you do things differently to what I did, or something like that. So I love how they kind of tether it back and, you know, get those Miyagi teachings in there, even though obviously you can't have Mr. Miyagi in the show itself. I'm trying to think of any other favorite moments. Just the Kreese and Terry Silver stuff, I would say, pretty much sealed the deal for me this season. It almost feels like I don't like the series if I can't think of any other favorite moments, but honestly, I think we've touched on most of them throughout the discussion. So, and also I'm trying to think back to a series that I watched weeks ago now, you know, so it's not exactly fresh in my mind. But how about you? Any favorite moments or anything?
It's so easy to say every single scene with Kreese and Silver, so I'm just going to say that as one of them. But the PTSD scene is the one where that real kicked, and that was the okay, shit's going to go down now, which we probably didn't. We thought, you know, they'd be laughing and joking for 10 episodes. No, it was far from that. So that's probably the highlight scene of all of that. Other favorite scenes, I know you spoke really well about the drunk scene with
that's one of my favorites too.
Yeah. It's actually, you know, he's actually talking about Robbie. It's always that awkward drunken conversation thing, but it really does well for both their character arcs and the journeys they're both heading towards, where he does want to reconcile with his son and he wants to find his father. So that drunken scene's really up there, and I really liked the karate fight. I know that's a bit boring option because it covers 2 episodes, but specific scenes, there's such a sheer consistency across the show. I'm struggling, and I'll chuck this one in. I'll put the flossing scene in for Kenny, because I saw this kid dancing at the bus stop, and I actually just thought someone just beat the shit into him now, please. And to have that first opinion of a character and end up seeing what they did with him, yeah, I've seen the Cobra Kai account use gifs of it already, like dancing into 2021, like, and they're like, fucking hell, like this happened, and look at him there compared to now. So I'm going to put that scene in purely out of respect to what they then did with him, because great character arc and fascinating character. So yeah, it's been an interesting one. It's seeing all as one. Again, I'm just, so many TV shows can't balance multiple characters across one season. You know, they'll focus on 2 or 3 and drop off 1 or 2, but I don't think there's a single character that has a bad arc in this. And I think it's just testament to the show that I see the direction the showrunners are heading in, and just go with it, because every single person I know that's seen this has loved this season. And I don't think they're dropping off any interest. You know, you see it trending in the UK, and on I know that the Netflix viewing figures are all nonsense in truth, because 3 seconds classifies as a view on Netflix, which is absolute bollocks. And they just engineer the picks they want to be near the top. It's like Red Notice is our most ever viewed Netflix film. It's like, oh wow, the Netflix film made by Netflix is their most viewed title ever, and they've never actually said how many there are, and they never release viewing statistics. Nonsense. But Cobra Kai, I think genuinely more and more people are catching it as the years going by. I think you've got people that might not be aware of it that like Karate Kid, and you've got other people saying, well, you've got 4 seasons out of it. It can't be shit at this point in time, otherwise they wouldn't keep making more. So it's really fascinating. I know I've kind of sort of jumped off, but it's really fascinating seeing how they've been able to progress with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's easily probably one of Netflix's flagship series at the moment on their streaming service. Word of mouth was great for Cobra Kai even when it started on YouTube Red, and I think it continues to do so. And it's just great that we're gearing up for a Series 5 now next year. This always happens, you know, especially because we get like the early screeners for it as well. Or at least we have been lucky to for the last 2 seasons. The wait always feels a little bit longer. I don't know why. And it's just, what am I going to do for a year now? You know, we've got a year of, you know, hopefully great films and wonderful TV shows in between. But because I just love these characters so much and love what they're doing with the series, as soon as one ends, I could easily just binge season 5, you know, straight away. So it is that agonizing wait now to the next one, but I guess I could go through like an awesome marathon at the moment if I wanted to before getting to season 5, if I so wish. Probably going to do that before season 6, but another solid series. You know, we're here 4 seasons in now, gearing up for 5, and we're all waiting with bated breath, and that's so rare when a TV show can do that and remain consistently good. You mentioned the character arcs. I think where the characters end up by the end of this are in places where I never would have even dreamed they would have. A lot of TV series kind of keep a sense of status quo and very, you know, sameness throughout it. And don't get me wrong, there is elements of that with Daniel and Johnny's character, but by the end of it, they are in a different place. And hopefully now going into 5, they can stay the course with that and not make them butt heads again. Because I think if they do that again for 5, I'm going to tune out of that whole relationship between those two, flagpole characters of it. But seeing the returning characters and just the writing, just doing justice to those characters, it's great. It's probably easily one of the best send-ups to anything, to a franchise that came out 30 plus years ago. To have this idea to rejuvenate it and just to have it be such a success and just keep going. And Netflix clearly have, high hopes for it as well. Commissioning season 5, I think, pretty much at the same time when they did 4. It's keeping me hopeful, and I really hope that they get given a season 6 as well. If the showrunners want 6 seasons and say that 6 seasons is how they want to tell their story, then at this point I've got to trust them, because they've done 4 solid seasons. And I'm waiting now with everyone until season 5 next year. So another solid series as far as I'm concerned.
No, absolutely. I'm with you on this, that, we might have a long wait. We might have a shorter wait. Who knows? They are filming it as we speak, but this shows they've been able to develop further and further. You've got character arcs that keep switching up. You've got so many journeys from season 1, where they've been to across season 2 or 3, and where they are now. It's a show that's unpredictable in the best possible way. That it's not unpredictable via shock or horror. It's that they'll take characters, put them in different journeys, and you sort of attach them for the ride, while at the same time it's not too deep, it's not complex, there's not, I say you don't need to know context, obviously, outside of knowing Karate Kid and Cobra Kai. There's no background you need to know about the real world. You can sort of switch your brain off, have a bit of fun, and it's the kind of series that delivers. You laugh with it, you get emotional with it. It's going to take you on a journey, and I think season 4 has really progressed that massively. That we've had great villains all along, but what you've now done, you've created a villain of the villains. You've really upped the ante. You've had the villains win for the first time in the series, and now it's about finding out where it's going to go next. So to me, season 4 of Cobra Kai is 100% on par with the others that I can think of at this time. I think you're right. I think when you do get back to going to get the chance to re-marathon them or something like that, it's just going to be a pleasant experience doing the 3 Karate Kid films and then doing Cobra Kai 1, 2, 3, 4, and wherever the hell it's going to go next. So exciting times ahead, curious times ahead. Again, it's all going to come down to that release date.
Mm-hmm. It gets you G'd up, though, doesn't it? You get inspired by it. When I watch it and the training and the fighting, I don't know. I just get that sense of exhilaration from it, as you meant to, from something like this. It's very rare to get that reaction out of me now with films. As you know, I'm usually a Debbie Downer on stuff like this, but to have that genuine love for what they're putting to the screen and just that feeling you get, that's what it's all about. That's what it should always be about. So hopefully they maintain that into 5, and I've got to trust them at this point. They're 4 for 4 so far, so hopefully they don't drop the bandwagon in 5, because we know that some TV shows towards the end, not to mention a certain one, Game of Thrones, kind of falls apart towards the end, and hopefully that isn't the case with this. But I'm confident it'll be all the stuff that we've speculated on, where we think it's going on paper, and that's just us speculating. If they do deliver on that, then season 5 is going to be dynamite again. I think we've said everything we possibly can on Cobra Kai for right now, at least, until next year, maybe. So this is where we pass over to everyone else. So obviously, thank you to the people that have commented during the live stream today. But if you are discovering this afterwards, let us know what you think of Cobra Kai season 4. What were your biggest surprises this series? Your favorite moments, things that you hope to see for season 5. We love talking Cobra Kai, Karate Kid, all the things in between. So be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. As we mentioned, we are in 2022 now, and we've got to keep the ball rolling. There's plenty of stuff coming out. In fact, for the rest of this next week, we've got plenty of stuff coming out. So George, what is one of those things that we've got coming out midweek?
Yes, so I can't believe it's Sunday. On Wednesday, we have the Book of Boba Fett. We're doing weekly spoiler discussions, 10 p.m. GMT when we go up. Obviously, each episode goes up on Disney in the morning. We'll be around in the evening. We'll have time to dissect it, have a think through, chat with other people, all that kind of stuff. So every Wednesday, if you're a fan of other TV shows, Disney Plus is going to have Marvel or Star Wars alternating all year round. 2022, if you're a fan of Marvel or Star Wars, this is one of the channels to be. There'll be a lot of coverage of all of that. And yeah, Boba Fett is the first one, the first videos on the channel from last week, which was an interesting conversation, given that I'd almost lost my voice and we somehow went on for an hour, which was probably the biggest surprise, actually. So do check that out. There's going to be new releases, as always. There's a few films out this week. A few others are going to get covered. But Chris, we're heading back to 2005 on the channel later this week, if you want to speak about another epic film.
We are, yeah. So jumping back on with the Peter Jackson retrospective, we're going to be covering King Kong this week. His absolute gargantuan. I don't even know how long that film is. It's long, whatever. Adaptation, reimagining of King Kong from 2005. That's going to be coming this Thursday, the 6th of January. That will be a pre-recorded one, probably on Wednesday. And I'm probably going to need about 2 or 3 days to get through that film because it is that long. So it's been a film that I haven't seen in a long time. I've got the extended cut. We'll be reviewing the extended cut when we do it. That'll be me and Tate on that one, sort of picking up the reins with the Peter Jackson retrospective, and then obviously the week after finishing his retrospective with The Lovely Bones, which is well, I know he did the Hobbit trilogy. That might be coming later. I'm going to say later this year now. I was going to say later next year. We are in January, later this year, I guess. But yeah, King Kong this Thursday. Probably have a whole bunch of other stuff as well and film reviews coming out. So obviously follow us on our social medias for all of that. That's Twitter at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterbox.com/cinemasavvy, where we have times. Some videos are very, very last minute when we know when we're going live. So best place to find it is on there. Obviously the bell icon as well lets you know when we go live. I think that's everything for right now, isn't it? We're all talked out. We're almost coming up to 2 hours on Cobra Kai, but it's been great.
Yeah.
Any other final things? I think that'll pretty much do it, won't it?
As I said, follow us on social media. It's all in that description. The best way to find out, there are the films like The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne, Titan. Licorice Peach out next week. There's a lot of films coming out. You know, we're heading into Oscar season.
Oh yeah.
We don't know what they'll be until February time, but we have a good feeling on this channel that most of them have already been covered because the last year we've had cinema releases, unlike last year's Oscars where we had to put everything on in the space of like a month. So, you know, I said, I know this is a Cobra Kai video, but if you do like your TV stuff, there might be other TV shows across this year that are just Disney Plus. Obviously, when those shows are well known, I think it's Lord of the Rings dropping this year at some point as well. There'll be more TV
Amazon,
things this way. So there's a lot happening. And as I said, 2022, new year, hit that subscribe button because we're quite excited about what we're going to be able to show to you all.
Absolutely. So that will do it for us for tonight. Thank you very much to everyone that tuned in. And until the next video, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.